Chapter 148. Bang! 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 Lu Qing only used his left hand, alternating between abrupt punch and flick finger to release flames to deplete the heat flow in his body. After a full 5 minutes, he finally felt the heat flow that had fused into the fine parts of his body dry up. The Jindan in his lower abdomen began to expand and contract, slowly rotating and splitting into strands of power. This power balanced ice and fire, quickly soothing Lu Qing's fatigue, but it didn't help replenish the heat flow. Lu Qing knew it was a critical moment. He endured the involuntary spasms and strange exhaustion of his body and continued to activate his supernatural ability. He shook his left arm again and punched forward with abrupt punch. Bang! Amid the vigorous and hurried sound, his mind suddenly buzzed. He automatically fell into a strange state of inward vision, reflecting the Jindan that was like a miniature starry sky. With a whoosh, Lu Qing saw a star fly out from the surface of the starry sky, shaking out a flame. Then he felt his palms slightly hot. His eyes were filled with flames, and a layer of crimson appeared on the surface of the lake. The crimson flame struggled for a while before finally extinguishing slowly. Unlike the time when he fought Yi Yaoding, he was now using his supernatural ability to release the power of the Jindan without reservation. He wasn't using his internal force to attack the enemy through visualization, so his performance was relatively more exaggerated. When the rolling flames dissipated, the surface of the lake was calm again, except for a few floating dead branches and leaves. Inside Lu Qing's body, the Jindan suddenly shrank and threw out another ice crystal to achieve balance. The ice crystal quickly expanded into a cold current, sweeping through his blood vessels and meridians, and spreading to every corner of Lu Qing's body. At this moment, Lu Qing felt completely frozen, like an ice sculpture. Even his heartbeat slowed down. Damn, the backlash is still so scary, he thought sluggishly. After an unknown period of time, he suddenly heard the thumping of his heartbeat. It was like the sound of thunder that bid farewell to the ice and woke him up from his frozen state of mind. Immediately after, Lu Qing felt his heart beating vigorously, spurting out blood that was full of vitality. The blood flowed throughout his body, dispelling the coldness. The marrow inside his bones cooperated with this process. In less than a minute, Lu Qing was completely freed from his frozen state. He could feel the benefits of his body becoming stronger. Furthermore, he could clearly sense that after resisting and fusing with the frost, his physical fitness had vaguely improved to a certain extent. Come to think of it, when he first awakened his fire ability, there was also such a change. It was just that he had neglected this point due to his high fever and weakness. No wonder the strength of his physical body had exceeded his expectations in the past month. Yep, this was also very normal. His own body was already able to adapt to the scorching flow of fire, so it would be unreasonable if it didn't improve at all. Lu Qing thought for a moment and felt his body was still weak. Cold seeped continuously from his bones, making him shiver. He just wanted to wrap himself in layers of thick quilts. Compared to the feeling of being on the verge of death last time, this time, it only reminded him of the experience of being sick when he was young. Turning around, Lu Qing took out the down jacket he had prepared and began to examine himself. He wanted to see if he had awakened the supernatural ability of frost. He wanted to see if the frost and flames would cancel each other out, resulting in the tragedy of returning to the state before the release. While he was inspecting, he suddenly exclaimed in surprise and joy. The cold flow and the hot flow mixed with each other, forming a delicate balance that blended into the fine details of his body. Taking a deep breath, Lu Qing shook his left arm abruptly and used 1-inch punch again. At the same time, he activated the cold flow of frost. Bam! There was no thin ice or snowflakes on the surface of his fist. Lu Qing wasn't disappointed. Instead, he fell into deep thought. After a moment of silence, he suddenly slapped the nearest boulder with his palm. Bam! He pressed his palm against the boulder and slowly lifted it, revealing a patch of cold white frost that outlined the shape of his left hand. Seeing the white frost melting rapidly, Lu Qing nodded thoughtfully. He had a rough idea of how to use the supernatural ability of frost. Currently, it wasn't strong enough to be released externally. However, it could be infused with his own strength, allowing his punches and kicks to be infused with frost. There was no need for additional ignition actions. Different supernatural abilities had different characteristics. This kind of frost wouldn't be of much use in actual combat for the time being. However, Lu Qing believed that when it was mixed with the similar force of the ice sect, it would have a surprising effect. Phew. When my arm recovers next week, I'll report to Master that I've awakened the supernatural ability of frost. Hee hee. Let's see how he reacts and what plans he has. Lu Qing tightened his down jacket, picked up the bag, and walked to the cafeteria, shivering. He urgently needed a cup of hot milk. As for the second wave of awakening, Lu Qing didn't dare to try it for the time being. So far, it had only affected the surface of the Jindan. If he lost control again, it was very likely that it would affect the insides of the Jindan. The power and backlash would be far greater than before. It was better to wait until his body reached a certain limit and his martial arts level stepped into the Danqi stage before making a decision. In the cafeteria, Lu Qing carried the hot porridge, steamed buns, eggs, and milk to the table where he and Yan Zhika usually ate together. Their backs were against the supporting pillars, creating a relatively quiet environment with few people. He put down the plate and took a sip of the milk. He felt the warmth flowing down his throat, soothing his stomach and reducing the coldness in his body. So comfortable. Lu Qing sighed with satisfaction and took another sip of the hot porridge. At this moment, he saw Yan Zhika walking over with a plate from the corner of his eye. There were soy milk, fried dough sticks, and white steamed buns on the plate. The girl's charming figure was like a scenery in the cafeteria. Hey, Cheng, you're done so early today? Yan Zhika was quite surprised to see her boyfriend at this time. Then she found that Lu Cheng's condition was not right. She hurriedly asked with concern, "Are you sick?" "No." Lu Cheng's shivering had eased a lot. He smiled and said, "Let me tell you a secret." He felt warm because he and Yan Zhika had tacitly chosen this table at the same time. To be able to meet like this in several cafeterias, among the endless stream of students, it was not just fate. Yan Zhika put down the plate and sat beside Lu Qing. She looked at him suspiciously and said, "What secret? You don't look well. Shall I accompany you to see a doctor?" Lu Qing leaned close to her ear and said in a low voice, "I wanted to practice my supernatural ability this morning, so I tried it by the lake. When I was about to reach the limit, I suddenly awakened the supernatural ability of frost. My face looks bad because of the backfire, but it's much better than last time. It's not a big deal." He saw that under the invasion of his breath, the girl's ears gradually turned red, crystal clear and cute. "You awakened your supernatural ability again?" Yan Zhika's pink lips were half open, showing her white teeth. Her clear eyes were full of surprise and confusion, looking like a dazed girl. "I don't know why. Maybe it's the way of balance between ice and fire. I don't think there will be any awakening in the future," Lu Qing explained. To be honest, every time he lied to the girl, he felt a little guilty. But the matter of the Jindan was related to his life. Telling her would only put pressure on her and make her feel uneasy. "I hope to digest the Jindan as soon as possible and let the power truly belong to me. Then I won't feel guilty." Yan Zhika had seen too many miracles from her boyfriend, so she quickly recovered and blurted out, "Why are you practicing your supernatural ability for no reason? Even if you want to practice, you should do it in front of Coach Shi. If the backfire is too serious, there will be someone to help you. If something happens to you, I. As she spoke, her eyes suddenly turned red, and there seemed to be waves of light on the surface of her eyes. Lu Qing gently bit his lower lip, reached out his hand, and held the girl's soft hand. "I won't do it next time. I'll take good care of myself. I'll consider more thoroughly." At this moment, he felt a sense of responsibility. His life no longer belonged to himself and his family. Yan Zhika took a breath, suddenly shook off his hand, and hummed, "Do you want to freeze me to death? Your hand is so cold." It's the residue of the supernatural ability of frost. It can help you relieve the heat in summer. Lu Qing smiled fawningly. Yenjika calmed down, raised her eyebrows slightly, and asked curiously, "You don't need to light the fire?" "I don't need the supernatural ability of frost. Wherever I want to be cold, it'll be cold," Lu Qing said with a little pride. Yenjika pushed the freshly made hot soy milk to him, pursed her lips and smiled. "Then you can cool it down. It's too hot. I can't eat it." "Okay." Lu Qing held the soy milk cup with his left hand, operating a weak cold current. There seemed to be a change in his body. It was constantly producing frost, maintaining a delicate balance with flame. After a while, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief and took his hand away. There was a layer of frost on the surface of the soy milk cup, but it disappeared in a flash. The temperature should be okay. He touched the cup and gave it to Yenjika, waiting for her evaluation. Yenjika took a sip, nodded and smiled. "It's just right. Your supernatural ability is quite useful." Lu Qing didn't expect to use his supernatural ability first, but he felt a sense of achievement. At least he had coaxed the girl into a happy mood. "It's good that you like it." He smiled and said, "By the way, have you finished watching the video sent by Coach Shi yesterday?" The video was about the opponent in the weekend preliminaries. "Finished. What about you?" Speaking of this, Yenjika suddenly became excited. She was the first substitute and had a chance to go on stage. Lu Cheng's shivering had stopped, but his body was still a little weak. He smiled and said, "Of course I finished watching. And I also found out something else." Although he couldn't go on stage, because it was related to Yenjika, he worked harder than if he went on stage himself. "What is it?" Yenjika asked curiously. Lu Qing chuckled and said, "Don't underestimate the Dream Squad, just because it's an amateur team. Their players are all second or third generation martial artists. Especially the three main players of amateur first pin. They all have high-ranked Dan stage elders in their families. They are the top group in Songqing's martial arts circle." Yenjika didn't have any fear of high-ranked Dan stage martial artists. She said with interest, "And then?" She drank a mouthful of soy milk and took a bite of the deep-fried dough stick. She looked at Lu Qing like a child listening to a story. "You may not believe it, but they formed the Dream Squad to participate in the preliminaries because of jealousy. Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan both liked Qian Ruoyu, who grew up together. They almost turned against each other. But Qian Ruoyu's attitude was very ambiguous. She didn't say anything. In the end, she pulled them to gather friends and formed a squad. She said it was to see who would perform better in this preliminaries." Lu Qing said. Yenjika almost spat out the soy milk. She covered her mouth and said, "Is there anyone who is so picky? I feel like she is still a little girl. She is older than you by half a year." "You are the little girl." Lu Qing laughed. "Humph, it depends on the mental age." Yenjika wrinkled her nose and asked in confusion, "How do you know all this?" "There is a local in our dormitory. He is quite well informed. I asked him specifically." Lu Qing told her the truth. For Coach Yen, he had done his homework. Yenjika's eyes curved, showing her dimples. She looked to the side and said, "At least you didn't forget me." Lu Qing finished the steamed bun quickly and drank the milk. He continued, "Qian Ruoyu's family's martial arts originated from Tai Chi, which is similar to your grandfather's. Jiang Dingyi's grandfather is famous for his knife skills. But because weapons are not allowed in the challenge tournament, he created a martial art that uses the knife skills in the palm. Feng Xiaoquan is good at the tiger and crane double form and the modern blast punch. I watched the videos and thought I could imitate them. I will talk to Coach Shi during this time. I will be your sparring partner for half an hour at the end of the special training every day so that you can get used to their fighting style." Yenjika puffed up her cheeks and looked to the side with a blush. Okay, she didn't object to the sparring partner during the daily special training. They talked and ate breakfast and gradually came to an end. Suddenly, Yenjika looked at the big clock in the cafeteria and exclaimed, "It's almost 8 o'clock. We are going to be late." "Yeah." Lu Qing followed her gaze and saw that it was already 7:54. Yenjika was so angry that she pinched him gently. "It's all your fault. I am not usually late." Lu Qing smiled and felt sweet. He held her hand and said, "Hurry up, we still have time." The two left in a hurry and ran to the martial arts arena. They finally arrived at the arena with less than 10 seconds to spare. Yenjika caught her breath and glanced at Lu Qing. Their eyes met and she felt warm and sweet at once. Even if it was just a small thing, she felt so happy. In the next few days, Lu Qing lived his life step by step, except that he was Yenjika's sparring partner. As for the cave of Longhu Immortal, he didn't hear Geyser mention it again, but he didn't dare to ask about it. In the blink of an eye, Saturday came. Songqing University Martial Arts Club was going to host the Dream Squad at 3 p.m. Because it was just actual combat training and there was no professional main force this time, Songqing University's publicity department didn't do any promotion for this competition and didn't inform the whole school. The audience was expected to be very small. Lu Qing took a nap and was about to go to Yenjika's dormitory building to go to the martial arts arena with her when he suddenly received a call from Geyser. "Brat, something came up and I can't come this afternoon." Geyser said casually, "You will be the coach today." "What? I will be the coach?" Lu Qing was shocked. Geyser laughed and said, "In this kind of competition, you can even tie a dog to be the coach. What are you afraid of?" "Okay, I am hanging up. You can arrange the order of appearance at your discretion." "Master, don't be so irresponsible." Lu Qing was about to say something when he heard the beeping sound. "Damn, I am a wounded person. How did I become the coach?" He was at a loss and suddenly thought of something. Could it be that his friend had discovered the Longhu Immortal's cave and had invited him to help out? Chapter 149. The more Lu Qing thought about it, the more he felt his guess was close to the truth. But being able to guess and being able to intervene were two different things. How could he get involved in the affairs of top physical and vulnerability experts? All he could do was to be patient and wait for the result. He didn't want to panic. He exhaled and pushed this matter to the back of his mind. He packed up and was about to leave. It was the weekend. Zhang Jingye was dating his girlfriend, Wu Qian. Qiu Zhigao was said to be training his muscles in the strength training room of the martial arts club. Only Lu Qing and Zhao Chang were left in the small dormitory. Seeing him leaving, Zhao Chang looked away from the computer and said with a smile, "Qing, how's your injury? Can you fight?" "I can't even do recovery exercises, let alone fight." Lu Qing smiled bitterly. "That's because you need to save people. You're Superman Qing in our dormitory." Zhao Chang joked. "Since you can't fight, I won't watch the game. It's boring." Lu Qing wasn't surprised at all. It was an amateur competition without much publicity. It would be strange if it could arouse people's interest. But it was good. With few spectators, senior brother Li Mao wouldn't be so nervous. "Well, you can be a real fan." Lu Qing joked and walked out of the small dormitory with his bag. After the cold current backfire, he realized that he lacked a thermos. Usually, he would drink water from the water dispenser with a paper cup when he was in the martial arts club or the teaching building. But when he returned to the dormitory, he only had an open ceramic cup. In Yenjika's words, he lived too coarsely and deserved to be called a coarse man. "Hey, Cheng, you're early." Kai Zongming just came out of the bathroom. "It's late. I have to pick up my girlfriend." Lu Qing smiled. Kai Zongming twitched his mouth. "Hey, you're calling her your girlfriend?" "I learned it from you." Lu Qing answered with a smile. Kai Zongming said disdainfully, "I understand now. You're setting off early so that you can take the opportunity to be lovey-dovey for a while." Sigh, Back in the days when we were paired up, we went in and out together and ate together. Now those guys are saying that I was abandoned. Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh at little Ming's self-deprecation. I can't help it. I choose my girlfriend over my friends. He said it with unusual pride, without the slightest bit of shame. Kai Zhongming was so embarrassed that he couldn't refute. He said, Cheng, you've become more thick-skinned since you got a girlfriend. I'll come to the martial arts club to cheer for you. After all, I'm a member of the special training. By the way, talker, how's your special training? Lu Qing asked casually. Kai Zhongming had a look of, I really want to hit you, on his face. Cheng, we're all members of the special training team. We train together every day. You didn't ask me until today. Don't you feel guilty? Guilty conscience. Lu Qing replied with a hollow laugh. Kai Zhongming put on a proud expression and said, after 10 days of special training, I feel like I've returned to my peak state. Plus, you've stimulated me, so I've calmed down and touched the threshold of meditation. In 1 or 2 months, I'll probably be able to control the concealment of spirit and chi and master 24 blizzard strikes. By summer vacation, maybe I'll be able to reach the 3rd pin of the amateur level and return to my hometown to show off. Not bad. Maybe you'll be a substitute next semester. Lu Qing looked at the time on his phone. I'm leaving. See you later. Kai Zhongming heard his perfunctory farewell and said angrily, see you my ass. In the female dormitory, Yan Jika changed into her martial arts suit. She didn't have to go to the male locker room. Although there was a shower stall, it would make a girl feel uncomfortable. The female locker room was given to the visiting team. Seeing her ready, Zhong Yanru asked curiously, Ku, is your boyfriend coming today? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang, who were playing games and watching movies, stopped at the same time and pricked up their ears. How is that possible? The injury on his arm hasn't healed yet. Yan Jika answered without much care. Li Liantong blurted out, did he hurt himself again that day when he was saving someone? Yan Jika was stunned. Her beautiful black eyebrows slightly wrinkled. You all know? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang looked at each other and said angrily, we're not blind. We just met at noon that day. How could we not recognize the person in the video? We just wanted to see when you would tell us the truth. But in the end, you didn't even mention it for a whole week. You didn't talk about this topic, so I didn't have a chance to mention it. Yan Jika said with a slight grievance. She couldn't just show off how awesome her boyfriend was, right? That wouldn't be good. I think you don't have time. You give him all your free time. When you're back in the dormitory, you're still chatting with your phone. You can't wait to be with him 24 hours a day. Li Liantong laughed. Ku, you have to hold on. Don't lose your virginity too quickly. For guys, the easier it is to get, the less they will cherish it. Bah. I don't talk to dirty people. Yan Jika laughed and scolded. Thinking back, it seemed to be true. But she didn't resist at all. Instead, she felt sweet. Plus, she had to do martial arts special training every day. She had to attend classes and do homework seriously. The time she had to spend with Cheng was actually very little. She had to squeeze out some free time, so she subconsciously cherished it. Shi Xiangyang interrupted. Ku, since your boyfriend and Lin K are both injured, will you fight today? It depends on the condition of the other senior brothers and sisters. I have a chance. Yan Jika chose her words carefully so as not to curse Li Mao and the others. Zhong Yanru immediately said happily, then we'll go to the martial arts club later and cheer for you. Maybe you'll fight? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang both agreed and fantasized about Yan Jika's heroine appearance. After chatting with her roommates for a while, Yan Jika saw a message from Lu Qing saying that he had arrived. She quickly packed her things and hurried out. A perfect match. Looking at her back, Li Liantong sighed with emotion. Zhong Yanru joked. Dirty Tong, that's not what you said before. Isn't that because I don't know him well enough? Li Liantong said shamelessly. He has such a level of martial arts at such a young age. His future is really limitless. Also, he has a good personality and is even better to his girlfriend. I agree with him dating Ku with both hands and feet. Outside the third dormitory building, Lu Cheng saw the girl walking out briskly. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face. He walked up to her, took the bag, and held her delicate hand. The whole process was done in one go. He had been trained for a long time. Yen Jika looked at him with a smile. Cheng, Dirty Tong, and the others recognized that the boy who saved her was you. They seem to worship you a little. Why does this sound a little strange? Lu Cheng smiled cautiously. That's because they haven't seen much of the world. After saying that, he quickly changed the topic. Coach sure has something to do and can't come this afternoon. He asked me to arrange the match for him. Ah. Yen Jika opened her mouth slightly. She seemed to be at a loss and didn't understand what had happened. After dozens of seconds, she couldn't help but laugh. Coach sure is so capricious. Cheng, you're the real Coach Lu. Not the real one. I still have a grand coach above me. Lu Cheng laughed. As for who it was, it definitely wasn't Coach Sure. Yen Jika turned her head and coughed twice. She pretended to be serious. Then what do you plan to do? I've thought about it. If Senior Li Mao is the last to fight, he will be more nervous. He will feel that he is responsible for the success or failure of the martial arts club. But if he is the first to fight, he will most likely want to make a good start. So, I put him second. This way, the pressure will be the least. Lu Cheng explained his thoughts. At the same time, he was glad that he had carefully studied the videos of Dream Squad for the girl. He wouldn't just shake his head and say that he didn't know anything about the enemy. Not bad. It's the same as what I thought. Yen Jika praised. Lu Cheng took the opportunity to laugh and said, "This is called telepathy." Bah. Yen Jika pursed her lips and raised her head to show her disdain. It was still early. The two of them walked slowly and took the opportunity to talk about their opponents. When they were about to reach the martial arts arena, Lu Cheng suddenly exclaimed, "There are quite a lot of people today." The number of students coming from all directions was much more than what he had expected. Yen Jika also didn't understand. She laughed and said, "Did the publicity department promote it again?" The two of them looked at each other blankly and walked into the arena hand in hand. They saw that the audience seats on both sides were sparsely filled with people. There are about 1,000 people here. Lu Cheng sighed. It was definitely not comparable to the university martial arts competition, but it was enough to support a competition. Yen Jika bit her teeth and said, "With so many spectators, will Senior Li Mao be more nervous?" The two of them entered the male locker room with worries. They saw Sun Jian standing up and teasing them. "Cheng, it's all your fault. You made the scene big. What does it have to do with me?" Lu Cheng was confused. Sun Jian laughed. "Didn't you save a student who jumped off a building on Monday? Everyone is curious about who the young hero is." After hearing that the martial arts club has a competition this weekend, they all came spontaneously. The martial arts club didn't publicize the preliminaries this weekend, but they didn't hide it either. Because they needed to use the venue, they posted a notice at the entrance, asking the students who were used to training on Saturday afternoons to avoid it. "It's really my fault." Lu Cheng didn't expect this to be the reason. He couldn't help but look at Li Mao, who was sitting in the corner with a hot towel on his face. He looked a little nervous. At this time, Lin Hua pulled Yen Jika aside and whispered something to her. Yen Jika came back with a strange expression and whispered to Lu Cheng, "Senior sister Lin's period came 2 days early because of nervousness. She's not in a good condition today, so I'll take her place." "Well, why would it come early?" Lu Cheng asked in surprise. "Of course. Emotional changes, psychological stress, adjustment of work and rest, and physical condition will all affect it." Humph, I was already very tired on Valentine's Day, and your confession made my mood change too much. So I came early tonight. Yenjika said in a low voice. Lu Qing calculated the time and asked, so early? My period is shorter than normal. It's only 26 days. Yenjika said angrily, you're the coach today. Arrange the order of the fight. Don't count this. Lu Qing took a breath and looked at her. Then you're really going to fight? Yenjika was a little excited and a little nervous. She nodded slightly. Yes. Lu Qing held her hand and whispered, don't be afraid. After a few days of training, you should know what to do. No matter how strong they are, I can beat them with one hand. Yenjika looked at her boyfriend's deliberately arrogant face and couldn't help but laugh. She calmed down a lot. Lu Qing clapped his hands and said to his senior brothers and sisters, quiet down. Coach sure can't come today, so I've been appointed to take his place. What? Sun Jian and others looked at him in surprise. Coach Lu? He might be the youngest coach in the history of the martial arts club, even if it was only one fight. In the female locker room, the beautiful Qian Ruoyu said in a low voice, Lin Ke can't fight for sure, but Lu Qing can fight with injuries. However, they're mainly training the team. Even if Lu Qing fights, he'll be the last one. We have to deal with the first two as soon as possible and concentrate on him. Chapter 150. Hearing Qian Ruoyu's arrangement, Yu Qiao interrupted in surprise. Isn't Songqing University's Lu Qing known for his unlimited stamina? If we can't win even if we take turns. Before he could finish his words, he was stared at by 4 fierce eyes. His voice became smaller and finally stopped abruptly. The 4 eyes were from Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan, who were sitting on either side of Qian Ruoyu. Damn it, what was wrong with my brain? Why did I get involved when they were fighting for a woman? What a waste of time and life. Yu Qiao didn't have the guts to scold the 2 flower protectors, so he could only complain about himself. He had just turned 22 and was of amateur first pin. His father was the junior brother of Qian Ruoyu's father. He wasn't a bad person, but he didn't have a good character. He had joined the team at Qian Ruoyu's invitation because he was interested in the gossip. Now he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Qian Ruoyu explained seriously with a serious face, I've consulted the elders in my family. They all agreed that Lu Qing can only do recovery training in these 2 days. If we force him to fight, there will be a lot of flaws on his right side. We can target him repeatedly, so it's not impossible. Well, junior sister is right. I didn't think clearly. While Yu Qiao answered sincerely, he silently said, a wise man submits to circumstances. To be honest, his junior sister was pretty and had a good character. She was just a little spoiled. Sometimes she was too greedy, and sometimes she liked to pretend to be an adult. Seeing that senior brother Yu was convinced by her, Qian Ruoyu beamed with joy, showing the youth and naivety of an 18 or 19-year-old girl. She looked around and said, so, our vanguard must be the type who is good at ending the battle quickly. Hearing this, Feng Xiaoquan volunteered, everyone has seen how good my tiger and crane double form is. I won't give them a chance to wander around and fight. He had a good appearance, but his slightly hooked nose showed a bit of arrogance and frivolity. Before Qian Ruoyu could answer, Jiang Dingyi retorted, you think you can end the battle quickly if you don't wander around and fight? The gap between amateur first pin and second pin isn't that big. 24 blizzard strikes isn't a piece of scrap metal. Ruoyu, let me do it. I'm tall and strong, as long as I can seize the opportunity to force them into a head-on fight, the earth-shattering palm will definitely be able to end the battle quickly. He was close to 1.9 meters tall, and his muscles were firm like half an iron pillar. His personality was considered steady, and he was dependable. It was just that he was rather stuffy and did not speak much. With a swoosh, Feng Xiaoquan stood up and sneered, in the previous few matches, when did you end them quickly? It's more likely that he'll be dealt with quickly. Due to the care given by the organizing committee intentionally or unintentionally, their opponents in the first 2 matches were not strong, which was a process for them to accumulate confidence and improve their strength. But no matter how much care was given, they still encountered a professional 9th pin in the second match. Jiang Dingyi tried to exhaust his opponent with brute force, but his opponent seized the opportunity and finished him off. Hearing Feng Xiaoquan's ridicule, Jiang Dingyi also stood up and stared at him. Didn't you lose in the end? Seeing that the 2 boys were about to have an internal conflict, Qian Ruoyu stepped in between them and covered her head. I'll fight the first round. There was no way he could live like this. The atmosphere in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club was the complete opposite. Damn, we have to call Coach Lu today. Sun Jian was annoyed and amused at the same time. Coach Shi was too irresponsible. Lin Hua, who was next to him, blushed inexplicably. It was already embarrassing enough for her to ask for leave because of her menstruation. However, the person she asked for leave was not the old Coach Shi, but a junior who was 2 years younger than her. Because Yan Jika was going to take her place, she specifically explained it to Yan Jika, but specifically told her not to tell the boys. Now it seemed that her junior must have passed on her words and helped her to ask for leave. Thinking of this, she was so shy that she stared at the floor attentively. Li Mao took off the hot towel on his face and said in surprise, Coach Shi left just like that? Did he really not care about the result of this match at all? Yeah, anyway, it's a match for us to accumulate actual combat experience. It doesn't matter who is the coach. We can even tie a dog. Lu Qing deliberately made fun of himself to help Li Mao relax. Puff. Everyone burst into laughter, and Yan Jika even hit Lu Qing. When Li Mao saw that no one was paying much attention to him, he heaved a sigh of relief. His body was no longer as tense. Lu Qing was about to arrange the order of appearance when the locker room door behind him was suddenly pushed open. Lin Kei walked in wearing a dark sweater. Lin Kei, why are you here? Sun Jian asked in surprise. Lin Kei said calmly, don't we have a match today? But you can't fight? Li Xiaowen thought Lin Kei was trying to be brave. Lin Kei looked at the corner of the locker room and said expressionlessly, I can cheer for you, Lu Qing and Yan Jika were stunned at first, then looked at each other and smiled. They both felt the change in Lin Quebec. After last week's match, my cousin seems to have a sense of collective honor. Yan Jika whispered in Lu Cheng's ear, unable to restrain her excitement and happiness. Lu Cheng was a little confused. He used to have a sense of collective honor. Didn't he feel very sad and painful when he lost last semester's match? Well, how do I explain this? He used to value the martial arts club because of my uncle, but for him, he is the only one in the club. When he can't fight, he doesn't care about the life or death of others. Well, that's how he looks down on you. Yan Jika laughed in a low voice, and her hot breath brushed against Lu Cheng's ear, making him feel numb. Ticklish. Lu Qing tilted his head and laughed in a low voice. The others were shocked by Lin Kei's performance and were stunned for a moment, only watching the strange scene. Since when did young hero Lin, who was always alone, cheer for others? Yan Jika laughed in a low voice. Every time you whisper in my ear, you're always like this. Lu Qing gave a hollow laugh and didn't dare to continue the conversation. He changed the topic and said, in last week's game, your cousin and I worked together without holding back and won the final victory. Maybe because of this, he has a sense of collective honor. Hee, how are you going to thank me? Do we still need to thank each other? Yan Jika deliberately opened her eyes wide and answered innocently. Seeing that Sun Jian and the others were looking over, Lu Qing stopped flirting and said seriously, I'll arrange the match today. I will arrange the order of appearance for today. Senior sister Lin Hua has suffered some injuries during the training, so Yan Jika will take her place. She has not participated in the previous university martial arts competitions, nor has she participated in any challenge tournament. The Dream Battle team definitely does not know the details of her situation. In this way, she will have the opportunity to win by surprise. Therefore, Yan Jika, you will be the first to fight. Yenjika nodded seriously and answered, okay. Her body trembled slightly, more excited than nervous. Lin Hua was relieved and deeply grateful for Lu Cheng's care. While Guoqing, Li Xiaowen, and Li Mao were surprised by Yenjika's replacement, Lu Cheng continued, Senior brother Sun Jian, you're the main player today. You'll be the last one to hold the line. Hee, all the heavy responsibilities are yours. He purposely said this to make Li Mao less nervous. No problem. Sun Jian answered straightforwardly. Lu Qing looked at Li Mao and said, Senior brother Li, you'll be the second to fight. Observe your opponent later. At this time, he didn't say anything to make Li Mao relax, so that he wouldn't be nervous because of the special treatment. Okay. Li Mao was much less nervous than before. After arranging the match order, Lu Qing looked at the time and said, there's still a while. Everyone get ready. You can close your eyes and adjust your breath. His master had already told him about the opponent's situation in the morning. He would combine the specific match order of the opponent and give him a secret instruction later. Just as Lu Qing finished speaking, Yenjika picked up the bag and said hurriedly, Senior sister Lin, Qing, help me tie my hair up. In less important matches where they were confident in themselves, female martial artists usually tied their hair up in a ponytail before going on stage. But in reality, their best choice was to wear their hair short or tied up in a bun. This was to prevent their hair from affecting their body in an intense battle or to be targeted by their enemies. Yenjika came from a family of martial arts. Since she was prepared for the possible fight today, she had brought all the necessary items. Under the guidance of the principle of convenience, not beauty, and with the help of Lin Hua and Guoqing, she quickly tied her hair up and stood in front of Lu Cheng. The girl's neck was white and slender with beautiful lines. She looked more mature with her hair tied up. Lu Cheng couldn't help but praise her in a low voice, so beautiful. Yenjika's facial features were more delicate and her temperament was more gentle. But with her hair tied up, she gave people a feeling of bright eyes and white teeth. Am I not beautiful most of the time? Yenjika's eyes were filled with joy as she hummed in a low voice. Lu Cheng laughed and said, different beautiful. Yenjika smiled and didn't say more. She reached out her hand to help Lu Cheng tidy his collar and patted the dust off. She said softly, you're a coach. You have to be more spirited, okay? Yes, Coach Yen. Lu Cheng answered with a smile. He turned around and clapped his hands. Go out. There's not a big gap between amateur fighters of first pin and second pin. After saying that, he walked towards Lin Kei, who was by the door. He smiled and extended his fist. Lin Kei was stunned. In the end, he clenched his fist and bumped it with Lu Cheng's. He said softly, all the best. The audience in the martial arts arena was obviously not organized. When they saw the home team coming out, they started cheering for them sparsely. Li Liantong took advantage of the fact that no one here knew her. She waved her hands at Yenjika like a madwoman, venting her accumulated pressure. When she saw them approaching the home team's seats, she said in surprise, Cabbage, Roo, they don't seem to have a coach. Her impression of the martial arts club's coach was a white-haired old man. Zhong Yenru stretched her neck and looked over. Suddenly, she was stunned. Lu Cheng is sitting in the coach's seat, what? He's the coach today? Li Liantong and Shi Xianyang were shocked. At the Dream Squad's seating area, Qian Ruoyu pouted slightly and said unhappily, Songqing University Martial Arts Club is looking down on us? Their elders had repeatedly emphasized that the coach of Songqing University Martial Arts Club had a strong background and powerful strength. They also told them not to create trouble. If they were a dragon, they should coil up. If they were a tiger, they should lie down. In the end, the coach didn't even come and let that Lu Cheng be the coach. They really think we're kids. Humph, we have to teach them a lesson. Feng Xiaokuan and Jiang Dingyi also felt that they were being looked down on. Their expressions were full of fighting spirit. Chapter 151. As a formal selection match, even if they were only qualified to record the match and didn't even have the chance to make a backup broadcast. The big screens in the martial arts arena lit up one after another, allowing the audience to clearly see the arena from all angles, as well as the seats of the host and away teams near the arena. "Hey, where's the coach of our martial arts club? I remember that he's an old man. The one sitting in the coach's seat seems to be a student. No way, could it be that the coach has changed? When I passed by yesterday, I saw the former coach. Look carefully, I feel that the student coach looks a little familiar." The audience was noisy and bustling, but none of it entered Lu Cheng's ears. He was listening to Li Xiaowen's report on the opponent's members and order of appearance. Qian Ruoyu first, Feng Xiaokuan second, Jiang Dingyi third. Lu Qing muttered thoughtfully and felt a little relieved in his heart. Although there was no difference between men and women in martial arts competitions, and it was normal to have contact with fists and feet, and he himself could understand and accept it, he still felt a little uncomfortable when he thought that Yan Zhika would hold the opponent's wrist or be held by the opponent when using listening skill. It couldn't be better that her first opponent was a girl. When this match was over, the following opponents wouldn't dare to give her the chance to use listening skill. It was okay to attack the opponent's vital points in a martial arts competition, but one shouldn't deliberately take advantage of the opponent. That would be ostracized by the whole circle, which would tarnish the image of a martial artist. While thinking, Lu Qing pulled Yan Zhika over and said with a smile, "Do you want to win quickly, or do you want to train your actual combat ability?" Feeling her boyfriend's confident attitude, Yan Zhika's slightly trembling body calmed down. She smiled and said, "How do you want to win quickly? How do you want to train your actual combat ability? You've seen the video of Qian Ruoyu's previous matches, and we've also discussed it. She doesn't lack actual combat experience, but either she wins smoothly or loses cleanly. She hasn't encountered any unexpected situations. As long as you can surprise her, she will most likely make mistakes." Lu Qing coughed and gave instructions in the manner of a coach. Yan Zhika's beautiful eyes looked up and said, "To win quickly is to surprise her with the ability to pull back the center of gravity at the beginning of the match and create opportunities with all my strength? To train my actual combat ability is to hold back temporarily and use fists and feet? More or less." Lu Qing smiled and said, "However, actual combat situations are ever-changing. Your opponent may not give you a chance to familiarize yourself with your punches and kicks. No matter how much I say, it still depends on your judgment and performance. Personally, I suggest you don't hold anything back." At this moment, the referee said in a clear voice, "The third round of the Songqing Division preliminaries, Songqing University Martial Arts Club vs Dream Squad. First round, Yan Zhika vs Qian Ruoyu." When Yan Zhika was about to enter the ring, Lu Qing seized the last chance to whisper a few words to her. "If there's no other opportunity, I'll show a flaw and let Qian Ruoyu use Tai Chi hand wrap to compete with her in listening skill. I've observed her. She's very confident in touching listening skill and always wants to try it. However, it's obvious that she hasn't entered meditation yet. She relies entirely on the characteristics of her martial arts and her usual push hand training. There's a certain gap between you and her, so you can restrain her. After defeating Qian Ruoyu, Feng Xiaokuan will be the next to enter the ring. He'll definitely want to save face for his beloved girl, so his fighting style will be relatively more aggressive. This will give you the opportunity to use 24 blizzard strikes. When the time comes, even if Feng Xiaokuan doesn't lose, he'll be close to defeat. This will give Senior Li Mao the best opportunity to enter the battle." Yan Zhika listened carefully, her eyes flashing as if digesting. Although she came from a family of scholars and her accumulation of knowledge was far better than Lu Cheng's, and she was always good at analyzing matches and giving suggestions, it was all just theory. When it was her turn, she still felt a little guilty and didn't dare to believe her own judgment and preparation. Her mind was in a mess. She wasn't as experienced as Lu Cheng, who could calmly analyze any situation and handle it from the details. Listening to her boyfriend's tireless and detailed explanation, Yan Zhika gradually became more certain. She nodded slightly, smiled faintly, pursed her lips and was about to step forward. "Ku." Suddenly, Lu Cheng called her in a low voice. Yenjika turned her head to look at him, her face full of confusion. Lu Qing raised the corner of his mouth and smiled gently. This time, it's my turn to cheer for you. He suddenly clenched his hands into fists and shook them. Victory. Yenjika's eyes suddenly became gentle. She smiled sweetly and said, "This seems to be the first time someone has cheered for me like this." After saying this, she turned around and walked up the stone steps step by step. Her body had stopped trembling, and her feet didn't slow down at all. When she stepped into the ring and her figure was completely magnified by the screen, the stands on both sides suddenly quieted down. No one would have thought that the first fighter of Songqing University Martial Arts Club would be such a beautiful girl. Bright eyes and white teeth. She was beautiful and elegant. Qian Ruoyu was originally a recognized beauty. She was delicate, tender, and full of youthfulness. However, when she stood in front of Yenjika, she was instantly overshadowed. She was dwarfed and looked like a passerby. It can't be. Songqing University Martial Arts Club has such a beauty. It's fine if there is, but how can they bear to let her fight in the challenge tournament? Yu Qiao betrayed Dream Squad in an instant and said with heartache. Even if they had liked Qian Ruoyu for many years and their obsession had become very deep, Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan were still shocked by the girl's beauty. If they were to fight, they might be timid and subconsciously give in. They might also want to show off their strength. Of course, this was under the condition that Qian Ruoyu wasn't watching. In the ring, when Qian Ruoyu saw Yenjika, her heart suddenly tightened. She felt an inexplicable sense of danger. It seemed that she was already at a disadvantage and her status was shaky. She secretly gritted her teeth and planned to use her martial arts strength to turn the situation around. 3 minutes of conversation time. The referee announced. I've seen your information. You haven't participated in the ranking event, and you haven't fought in the challenge tournament before. Today is your first real battle, right? Qian Ruoyu wasn't stupid. She used her first real battle to make her opponent nervous. Yenjika's mind was echoing with Lu Cheng's encouragement and analysis just now. She casually replied, yes, but there are always pros and cons. At least you don't know me at all. She smiled faintly and hid all the nervousness between her eyebrows. So what if it's my first real battle? My boyfriend defeated his opponent easily in his first real battle. At this moment, Lu Qing didn't return to his coach's seat. Instead, he approached the ring and watched the match closely. To him, Yenjika's appearance made him more nervous than him fighting. He was afraid that she would be injured or wronged. He was afraid that she would encounter some unexpected situation. In his own battle, at least he could control everything. But now, after direct instruction, he could only watch. The rest would depend on Yenjika's improvisation. And how she would perform on the spot was completely unknown. Lu Qing hid his nervousness and looked as calm as ice. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and stood beside the ring, watching quietly. Wow, that coach is so cool. You're still in the mood to watch the coach. Which school is that girl from? I remember meeting her on the road. I even hit a telephone pole because I peeked at her. She seems to have a boyfriend. I often see her eating with a boy in the cafeteria. Wait, it seems to be that coach. Damn it, rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows. Maybe she's there to eat the grass near their burrows. Before this, although Yenjika was pretty, there were many pretty girls among the tens of thousands of students. There were also quite a few who were not worse than her. She had never hosted a party to welcome freshmen and had never done anything in the limelight. So, not everyone knew about her. Only those in the same school, the martial arts club, and her roommates knew about her. As for the others, they would only take a few glances when they met on the road. But soon, they would forget about her because of their studies and games. Lu Qing even knows how to pose and act cool. Li Liantong snickered and said to Shi Xiangyang. Shi Xiangyang guessed, I think he's just nervous about Ku. He's full of boyfriend power. In the midst of everyone's discussion, the 3 minutes of conversation came to an end. Qian Ruoyu tried her best but failed to affect Yenjika's mood. Instead, she was irritated by the way Yenjika looked at her as if she had dropped out of school. She planned to teach her opponent a lesson. Yenjika didn't know what Qian Ruoyu was thinking. The reason why she kept looking at her was because she thought of the melodramatic emotional entanglement between her and the two boys. She wanted to see what the parties involved were like. Begin. The referee waved his right hand. Yenjika had made up her mind to hold back and familiarize herself with her moves so that she could adapt to the real battle as soon as possible. Therefore, after a few steps, she twisted her waist and back and directly launched a mountain blast punch. Qian Ruoyu put her feet together and punched with her left hand. Like a drum, her left hand moved horizontally to Yenjika's wrist. Bam! Yenjika's strength was slightly weaker and her body swayed a little. At this moment, Qian Ruoyu loosened her shoulders and exerted strength purely from her waist and back. Her left arm was like a tangled hand, leading Yenjika's right fist to the side. Yenjika's center of gravity was affected subconsciously. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qian Ruoyu took half a step forward and quickly punched with her right fist, aiming for the exposed middle flaw of her opponent. This fighting style, which originated from Tai Chi, put Yenjika in danger. Yenjika's heart tightened. Fortunately, she had been practicing for a long time and didn't panic. Her spine suddenly wriggled like a dragon turning over and forcibly pulled her center of gravity back. She then used her left foot as a fulcrum and turned around to Qian Ruoyu's right side. With her back facing the enemy, she narrowly avoided the forward punch. With her back facing the enemy, it was difficult to observe the situation. Even if she used her elbow to attack, it would be easy for her to counterattack. Yenjika didn't stop. She turned again and came behind Qian Ruoyu. She raised her right hand and punched down. Cheng was right. My opponent won't give me a chance to familiarize myself with my moves. She forced me to pull my center of gravity from the beginning. Is this real battle? Chapter 152. Qian Ruoyu was quite shocked when Yenjika forcibly pulled back her center of gravity and circled to her right. She didn't expect Songqing University Martial Arts Club to have a secret weapon after injuring Lin Kei and Lu Cheng. A secret weapon that had reached the initial level of meditation and a secret weapon that could control the details of the body to a certain extent. This was really a configuration for the final round of the university martial arts competition. Fortunately, she was also a martial artist who had experienced many actual battles. Although she was shocked, she did not panic. In a situation where she could not withdraw her right fist in time, she directly tightened the muscles on her right thigh and threw out a side kick, fast and ruthless. However, Yenjika didn't stop. She circled to her back and just when she withdrew her right leg and couldn't exert force. Damn it. She didn't look like she didn't have actual combat experience. Facing Yenjika's downward punch, Qian Ruoyu cursed in her heart. She quickly tapped her right foot and swung her arm. Instead of pulling it back, she hammered forward, causing her upper body to fall down. She narrowly avoided the fatal blow with a slanted posture. At the same time, her lower body stood firmly without the slightest wobble. Failing to hit, Yenjika wanted to turn her fist into a palm and press down with force to make Qian Ruoyu unable to maintain her center of gravity. However, at this moment, Qian Ruoyu's upper body was like a spring. She suddenly pulled back and leaned back, avoiding Yenjika's right palm. Her left arm was already bent, and what followed was a vicious elbow strike. Yenjika raised her left hand and blocked her elbow in time. Then she felt the strength of this strike was quite strong. She didn't dare to be careless and withdrew her palm to reduce the force. In a split second, Qian Ruoyu used the blocked elbow as a fulcrum and threw out her forearm with a clenched fist towards Yenjika's lower abdomen. Tilting punch. Lifting palm. Impossible to guard against. Yenjika had watched many of her opponent's competition videos and was familiar with her fighting style. But this was the first time she encountered a real fight. Although she wasn't nervous, her mind was still a little muddled. She couldn't quickly turn her accumulated knowledge into on-the-spot judgment. She couldn't make the correct response in time to the pull and the tilt just now. Fortunately, her choice wasn't completely wrong. When she withdrew her left palm holding Qian Ruoyu's elbow, she drew a small arc, flipped it up, and then shook it. Together with the push of her right palm, she threw her enemy one step forward. Pa! As the distance between the two of them increased, Qian Ruoyu's punch hit nothing but air. She simply went along with the force of the throw and took a few steps forward, taking advantage of the momentum to turn around, returning the situation to the confrontation before the official start of the competition. Yen Jika recalled the previous scenes in her mind. She realized that she lacked actual combat experience and had made many mistakes in judgment. If she hadn't been cautious enough, she would have been defeated. Until now, she finally understood why Lu Cheng had suggested that they not hold back and go all out with her as the leader. Because this was the only way to avoid making mistakes to the greatest extent. If you don't listen to the words of the old man, you'll be at a disadvantage. However, if he didn't experience it for himself, he wouldn't be able to understand the insight contained in these words. She took a light breath and felt that she had completely entered the competition state. Her mind was clear again, and she was no longer nervous and confused. Since he understood, he would listen to Coach Lu. She pounced forward, took a step forward, and took the initiative to attack. Seeing that Yen Jika had narrowly avoided the punch, Lu Cheng was relieved. From her last counterattack, he judged that she had truly adapted to the competition and had shed the inexperience of a rookie. Not losing in a dangerous situation. With this kind of experience, Ka's martial arts combat will be much easier in the future. Lu Cheng nodded with gratification. Even for himself, it was only when he fought with the Shaolin disciple, Wu Shitong, that he relied on the listening skill and had a similar experience. The audience in the stands applauded one after another, spontaneously cheering for Yen Jika according to the name list on the big screen. They didn't expect that this girl, who looked elegant, gentle, light, and delicate, could perform so valiantly and heroically. Among the cheers of Go Yen Jika, Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang, and Zhong Yenru felt honored and shouted the most intensely. The reason why such an atmosphere was intoxicating was because when one was in it, one didn't have to consider the opinions of others. They could vent themselves to their heart's content, including happiness, pride, and the accumulated negative emotions. How come everyone in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club can enter meditation? Yu Qiao's eyes greedily followed the beautiful figure and couldn't help but sigh. The members of the Dream Squad were all extraordinary, but until now, only Jiang Dingyi had entered the door of meditation. For a martial arts aristocratic family, meditation was not something that could be practiced at any time. If one was too young and had a pure heart, he or she would know almost nothing. If one tried to meditate, he or she would only fall asleep. As one grew older and had more contact with society, the information they received would be more varied, and it would be harder for them to conceal their spirit and qi. In other words, the most suitable age to practice meditation was between the ages of 10 to 22 or 23. In this, the spirit was closely related to the body. The stronger the body, the more vigorous the qi and blood, and the more energetic the spirit, the easier it was to enter meditation. Therefore, before a martial artist's body was fully developed and his qi and blood were vigorous to a certain extent, practicing meditation would only make one tired, slow down, and weak. Without a certain level of talent, it was almost impossible to enter the door. Considering this, martial arts families arranged for their disciples to practice meditation between 17 or 22 years old. Some were even more extreme, requiring the body to reach the level of professional ninth pin. Jiang Dingyi, Feng Shaoquan, and Qian Ruoyu had only started to try it in the past year and a half. Feng Shaoquan answered with slight worry, could it be that the coach of Songqing University has some secret method? Yen Jika's meditation seems to have reached the initial level. Her ability should be more than that. If Ruoyu is careless, the result will be troublesome. Although that girl was pleasing to the eye, the one he cared about most was still Qian Ruoyu. There are tens of thousands of students in Songqing University. It's not difficult to find a few who have the talent to enter meditation. Jiang Dingyi sighed. Although there were high-ranked dance stage fighters in his martial arts club, it would be good enough if he could pick one out of 100 disciples. After all, it was not some big sect or force. In the arena, Yenjika approached Qian Ruoyu and threw a seabed burst punch at her lower abdomen. During this process, she did some visualization and mixed a little of the meteor force into her fist, making it faster and faster. It tore the air and made an explosive sound. Her physical quality was not enough to complete the real meteor force. Bam! Qian Ruoyu lowered her body and hammered her left hand down fiercely, blocking Yenjika's burst punch. Bang! When the two collided, she was about to repeat the same trick and lead her opponent's fist away. Yenjika's body trembled. She took the opportunity to withdraw her fist and borrowed strength. She stretched out her left hand and grabbed Qian Ruoyu's shoulder quickly and fiercely. Brutal blizzard of 24 blizzard strikes. Qian Ruoyu was not surprised but happy. She pushed her feet inward and put strength in her waist and back. Her right shoulder loosened and moved forward. Just when her hand came into contact with Yenjika's palm, she suddenly tightened her shoulder. Before her opponent could grab her, she bounced and shook. Yenjika's left hand was immediately bounced away and slightly stopped in the air. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qian Ruoyu shook her right arm and caught Yenjika's palm with Tai Chi hand wrap. Seeing this scene, Jiang Dingyi and Feng Shaoquan immediately shouted, "Good job," and couldn't wait to rush to the side of the field to applaud. But when they saw Lu Qing smiling and nodding opposite them, they suddenly realized something and hurriedly shouted, "Let go." At this moment, Qian Ruoyu could not hear the voices outside the arena. She held her opponent's slender fingers and pulled them down without hesitation. However, before she could exert her strength, Yenjika seemed to have anticipated it. Her left hand moved in the direction of her pulling and her body moved closer. Her right hand clenched into a fist and suddenly punched out, aiming for Qian Ruoyu's lower abdomen. Qian Ruoyu did not dare to be negligent. She temporarily stopped trying with her right hand and gathered her strength to pound her left fist like a drum. Bang! In the midst of the dull sound, Yenjika used her listening skill to pull back her left hand. Under Qian Ruoyu's subconscious grip, they pulled her forward with their combined strength. It was this movement that made Yenjika tighten her right thigh and hit Qian Ruoyu with her knee. Poof! Her knee hit Qian Ruoyu's lower abdomen, but she stopped in time and did not use her full strength. The referee beside them stopped his action and raised his right hand. First round, Yenjika wins. Yenjika withdrew her right leg and stood up straight again. For a moment, she was still a little absent-minded. She won just like that? She had made several wrong judgments and was surrounded by dangers. After changing her fighting style according to her boyfriend's advice, she actually won so easily. Qian Ruoyu really liked to use Tai Chi hand wrap and to compete with others in listening skill. Qian Ruoyu was really too smooth. In the face of unexpected changes, her reaction was indeed too slow, and this was completely consistent with Cheng's judgment just now. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look back at Lu Qing. She saw him clenching his fist with a bright smile and giving her a thumbs up. He is really a professional fighter with enough insight and experience. This thought came to Yenjika's mind. Her mouth curved, her nose wrinkled, and she actually made a funny face at Lu Qing. After a moment of absent-mindedness, her first real victory made her very happy and excited. She couldn't wait to rush down the arena and celebrate with Lu Qing. It was the first time Lu Qing saw a girl make a funny face. For a moment, he felt that she was so cute. The audience, who were watching the big screen, didn't miss this scene. The cheers and shouts became sparse. Qian Ruoyu rubbed her stomach and stood up straight. Her expression was very complicated. She had never thought that she would lose so quickly and so cleanly. After discovering that her opponent could forcibly pull back her center of gravity, she should have realized that her meditation skills were enough to support her listening skill in a battle. Qian Ruoyu was a little unwilling to admit defeat. "I didn't know you well enough this time. Next time, I'll win it back," After saying this, she realized that Yenjika was not looking at her at all. Instead, she was exchanging glances with their coach, Lu Cheng. This is so disrespectful. Qian Ruoyu snorted and turned to leave. Feng Xiaokuan came up to her and patted her shoulder comfortingly. Yenjika turned back, her eyebrows relaxed. She laughed in a low voice, "Next time, I won't be a newbie." At this moment, the audience finally realized what had happened. They loudly cheered and shouted for her, their voices echoing around the martial arts arena. Yenjika! 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 Yenjika finally experienced the wonderful feeling that her boyfriend had always described. Her cheeks were slightly red from excitement. When she saw Feng Xiaokuan enter the arena, she naturally thought of Lu Cheng's judgment just now. Feng Xiaokuan was obviously in love with Qian Ruoyu. He was the standard flower guardian. After his sweetheart was defeated, he would definitely be eager to help her get revenge in exchange for a good impression. Therefore, his fighting style would be more aggressive than usual. This is my chance to use 24 blizzard strikes. Chapter 153. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Sun Jian and the others changed their sitting postures, their faces full of expectation. In the beginning, they didn't have much confidence in the battle between Yenjika and Qian Ruoyu. After all, not everyone was like Lu Cheng, who could amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Actual combat experience still needed time to accumulate. But as Yenjika steadied herself and launched a counterattack, purposely showing a flaw to get a chance to compete with Lu Cheng's listening skill, they suddenly became excited. During this time, Lu Cheng had been practicing listening skill with Yenjika every day, never hiding from their presence. They didn't expect it to come in handy. Yenjika, a fledgling, could defeat an opponent 2 levels higher than her. Facing an amateur first pin, they were not completely hopeless. Today, they might be able to get a victory in their home ground. Without Lu Cheng and Lin Kei, we also have the ability to fight. We won't just rely on them. Watching Feng Xiaokuan climbing the stone step by step, Yenjika quickly panted, trying to recover as much strength as possible. Although she and Qian Ruoyu did not fight for too long in the battle just now, there was no chance for her to use 24 blizzard strikes. However, her body was tense and her mind was in a daze, which would consume her physical strength exponentially. Not to mention that she had dealt with several dangerous situations. Therefore, at this moment, she was more than half exhausted and had to seize the opportunity to take a breather. Feng Xiaokuan saw the girl opposite him with flushed cheeks due to panting and excitement. Her bright eyes were so beautiful that he didn't dare to look directly at her. He quickly closed his eyes, put away all distracting thoughts, and recalled Qian Ruoyu's unwilling and angry expression just now. "Ruoyu, I'm here to avenge you." Thinking of this, he felt a burst of excitement. This was a chance that Jiang Dingyi couldn't get. The referee didn't give them too much time. He raised his right hand and said, "The second round, start." With his announcement, the surrounding stands burst into a burst of cheers for Yenjika again. Feng Xiaokuan also moved the 2 muscles on his back, like a giant red-crowned crane, and rushed to his opponent. He was so fast that he was in front of Yenjika in the blink of an eye. He raised his right hand and put it beside her head, as if he was hugging her head. Then he exerted strength in his muscles, shook the air, and chopped out his right hand fiercely. Tiger hug downward chop. Roar. The sound of the wind reverberated like the roar of a tiger. Together with this attack, it was truly powerful. With Lu Cheng's analysis and her own judgment, Yenjika had long anticipated the enemy's attack and killing move. She didn't panic and shook her right arm, thrusting out her fist like a big spear and hitting the tiger claw from the side. Bang! The moment the 2 of them collided, Yenjika took a step back with her right foot and stepped firmly on the ground, neutralizing the power that was much stronger than hers. At the same time, her muscles trembled as she used the yin-yang twist to rebound her right arm. Pa! Just as her right fist was bounced off, Feng Xiaokuan's fist suddenly opened. Using his knuckles as the point of force, a series of crisp sounds burst out, turning the downward chop in tiger embrace into the white crane stretches its claws. This was the killing move of the tiger and crane double form. There was no warning before it was launched, but it was fast and fierce. It was more terrifying than the combination of the finger spear and the tiger fist, and more difficult to defend against. Moreover, it could be followed up with other killing moves. If Yenjika hadn't carefully studied his match videos and had a deep impression of this move, her wrist would have been broken on the spot. Her right arm bounced back and her body leaned back. Yenjika visualized the scene of a roaring wind and snowstorm in her mind. She pulled out her left leg and kicked towards Feng Xiaoquan's knee. Feng Xiaoquan hooked his toes, twisted his waist, lifted his thigh, and bounced his knee. Like a golden rooster standing on one leg, he threw out his right calf and tapped on Yenjika's tensed foot. Bang! In the muffled sound, both of them shook at the same time. Yenjika took advantage of the force to pull back her leg and stomped down. Her foot pushed inward, allowing the force to surge up through the mountains and over the ridges, converging with the small currents in various parts of her body. Then, using her spine as an axis, she rotated her waist and pulled in her right shoulder. With a loud rumble, she threw out an aggressive blast punch. With the continuous borrowing of force, her punch was not inferior to Feng Xiaoquan's tiger punch. Brutal Blizzard was getting fiercer and fiercer. The combination of her two moves was so tight that Feng Xiaoquan had no chance to dodge with the crane steps. He could only activate his shoulder blades and back muscles, and combined with the force under his feet, he clenched his right hand into a beak and pecked at the side of Yenjika's blast punch. The crane pecking momentum, one peck, one hole. Bang! Yenjika's right arm bounced back and pushed her strength to the side to avoid the fist. She used her strongest point to meet the crane pecking momentum. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan's right hand bounced back. He couldn't help but shake his hand. After all, the pecking momentum was not as strong as the fist. Yenjika's fist was only a little red, but it was not a big deal. Using the yin-yang twist, again, Yenjika bounced back her right arm and punched with her left fist. Her momentum was even stronger than before, like a never-ending blizzard. Bang! 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 This made the cheers in the stands louder and louder. Thousands of people showed the power of tens of thousands of people. After blocking several times, Feng Xiaoquan felt that his strength was gradually falling into a disadvantage. He knew that he couldn't go on like this, so he quickly restrained himself and took a deep breath. His face suddenly turned red and his temples bulged. It seemed that gunpowder was exploding in his body. Using his feet as a cannon, he suddenly punched out. Bang! Their bodies shook at the same time. It was a tie. Under the recoil of each of them, the situation was temporarily stagnant. Yenjika was about to attack again when she suddenly felt that her body was empty. Her muscles were aching and twitching, which made her realize that her physical strength had reached its limit. According to her current condition, it would be difficult for her to perform a complete 24 blizzard strikes, not to mention that she had just fought a fierce battle. Her last few moves were driven by the borrowed strength. Now that the brutal blizzard was interrupted, she naturally couldn't fight again. Seeing that Feng Xiaoquan had recovered, she raised her right hand and made a gesture of surrendering. There was no disappointment on her face. Instead, a faint smile appeared. If I was at my peak, I might be able to defeat Feng Xiaoquan. Ah, I'm so envious of Cheng. I need to strengthen my physical strength. Looking at the girl's bright smile, Feng Xiaoquan was stunned. Then he heard the referee's announcement. Round 2, Feng Xiaoquan wins. I won just like that. Seeing Yenjika turn around and leave, Feng Xiaoquan suddenly felt a little lost. But he quickly recovered. He pinched his right arm and gasped for breath, hoping to recover more strength. The suppression of the 24 blizzard strikes and the last blow of the modern blast punch had consumed a lot of his energy. Lu Qing saw Yenjika walking down the ring amidst the cheers. He spread his arms with a smile and gave her 2 thumbs up, praising her for the perfect timing of the 24 blizzard strikes. Her momentum was full of vigor, and every move was at her fingertips. She didn't stick to the rules. Her fighting style could be said to have reached a higher level. Yenjika's eyes slightly curved. She smiled and walked to Lu Cheng. When she was about to open her mouth, her thighs suddenly became weak and she stumbled forward. She was really at her limit. With Lu Cheng by her side, she naturally didn't have to worry about falling. She only saw Lu Cheng sliding over and stretching out his arms to hold her firmly. His chest is so reassuring. As this thought flashed through her mind, the shouts on the stand stopped abruptly. All the spectators were dumbfounded by this scene. At this scene, many male students had a strong idea. "Coach, I want to learn martial arts." "Okay, everyone is watching." Yenjika blushed and broke free. As a coach, Lu Cheng knew the next step was the most important. He didn't say much to Yenjika, only clenched his fist and reached out to her. Yenjika also clenched her fist and bumped it with Lu Cheng's. She shouted in a low voice, "Victory!" After the ceremony, she walked to the seats of the home team. Guoqing and Lin Hua had already come to greet her, praising and supporting her. At this time, the three of them saw Li Mao pass by with a slightly pale face. Yenjika was about to reach out her right hand and give Li Mao a high five or a fist bump to encourage him, but he ignored her and passed by her. "Li Mao is so nervous," Guoqing murmured. Lu Cheng also noticed this. His mind raced as he tried to figure out what to do. Nervousness will affect the speed of thinking, but it won't last forever. Li Mao, who is not as nervous as last time, should be able to calm down after a few moves. Can I set a preset program for him like a computer when his thinking is slow? Let him do that without thinking? Fighting is ever-changing. What kind of preset program is suitable? Too simple and useless. Too complex and requires the coordination of thinking. It's a waste of time. While thinking, Lu Cheng observed Feng Xiaoquan's every move on the stage. He was rubbing his right arm and wrist. Obviously, the blast punch collision just now was not easy. He was gasping for breath, which indicated that he had used up a lot of energy. In this case, speed and strength would all be reduced. If it were me, an amateur, facing such an enemy, how would I fight? Lu Cheng gradually had an idea. When Li Mao was about to pass by him, he suddenly pulled him and whispered, "Don't think about anything later. Remember one thing, slide step to the left, low kick, and then punch." "Ah, okay." Li Mao answered a little stiffly. Lu Cheng didn't let him go. He said in a low voice, "Repeat it. Left, slide step to the left, low kick, punch to the left, slide step to the left, low kick, punch to the left." Li Mao's memory was not a problem. Very good. If your mind is blank later, use it to replace your thinking and judgment. Lu Cheng reminded him again. Li Mao nodded and stepped up the stone steps. Looking at his back, Lu Cheng took a deep breath and waited for the battle to start. He had taught him the simplest way. He hoped that there would be no accidents. Chapter 154. Walking up the stairs, Li Mao didn't feel as nervous as last time because this was not an important match. It didn't matter even if he lost. Coach sure didn't even show up. But why am I still a little nervous? Why am I still trembling? Is it because of the thousands of people around me? Is it because of Yenjika's outstanding performance that I'm under pressure and don't want to ruin the good situation? Or is there no other reason? Is it because I'm born a loser who can't stand big occasions? Why am I so nervous because of my inferiority? Feeling self-deprecating, Li Mao stood opposite Feng Xiaoquan and saw the referee raise his right hand to announce the start of the match. I haven't adjusted yet. With a buzz, he felt himself tense up again. Although his thoughts didn't become sluggish, he couldn't concentrate. At this moment, a sentence suddenly flashed in his mind. Don't think about anything later. Remember one thing, slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Li Mao murmured to himself as if he was grasping at the last straw. Feng Xiaoquan stopped gasping for breath. He could feel the obvious nervousness of the enemy in front of him, and he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Good thing it's him. A few days ago, Feng Xiaoquan had thought about Li Mao's performance in the university martial arts competition and was impressed by his stage fright. Therefore, he had made up his mind that once he met this opponent, he would seize the opportunity to attack and not give him a chance to recover. It was a gift from God to meet this nervous brother when he was so exhausted. Round 3, start. The referee didn't give Li Mao time to adjust. As soon as he finished his words, Feng Xiaoquan flapped his muscle wings as if he was stepping on ice and approached his opponent quickly and fiercely. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by forward punch. Li Mao didn't think at all. He followed his instinct and slid to the left to dodge. Then, he tightened his thighs, bent his knees, and kicked out with a low kick, aiming straight for Feng Xiaoquan's joint. Feng Xiaoquan didn't expect this nervous brother to dodge in time. He had to stop his tiger palm cut and turn to twist his waist and swing his leg to block with a side kick. Bang! When they were feet to feet, Li Mao was like a robot. He instinctively adjusted his muscles and borrowed a little strength. He pulled his right arm back and made a fist. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Feng Xiaoquan shook his right arm and punched out with his tiger fist. He did not show any signs of weakness as he met force with force. Bang! Amidst the muffled sound, Feng Xiaoquan felt a soreness in his right arm. He didn't use enough strength, and his opponent forcefully knocked his fist away. Damn it! This is the after effect of the fierce fight. He made a prompt decision. Using his left foot as a fulcrum, he swung his right hand to the side and turned his body around. Li Mao's punch landed, and he seemed to have entered the rhythm of his training. His body instinctively swung back and forth, and once again, he borrowed strength and threw out his left fist, aiming straight for Feng Xiaoquan's wide-open chest. It. Such a simple left slide step, low kick, and forward punch. However, in the current situation, he didn't need to make any complicated analysis, nor did he need to be resolute and decisive. He only needed to use the 24 blizzard strikes skillfully as he did in his usual training. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan twisted his back, rotated his shoulders, clenched his left fist, and hammered down. He blocked Li Mao's mountain splitter. Li Mao's mind gradually became clear and his attention was focused. He felt the rhythm of the game was so good. It made him feel like he was back in the practice field. The familiar environment could effectively reduce the tension. He swung his left fist back and let the strength flow into his spine and to the soles of his feet. Then with his back as the axis, he whipped his leg towards Feng Xiaoquan's lower body. Seeing this, Lu Cheng was relieved and happy for Li Mao. He didn't stay on the sidelines and went back to the coach's seat. Feng Xiaoquan, on the other hand, was quite annoyed. Knowing that he was suppressed by 24 blizzard strikes again, he no longer hesitated and gave a whip kick. Then, he took a deep breath, his face turned red, and his temples bulged. Boom! Feng Xiaoquan seemed to have a gunpowder explosion in his body. He spurted his right fist to counterattack. Li Mao, who gradually got used to the game atmosphere, could make simple and quick judgments. He knew his opponent was exhausted, so he didn't avoid the attack. He wrapped the borrowed strength and hammered down hard. Bang! Both of them shook their center of gravity and took a step back. Feng Xiaoquan took the opportunity to use the crane steps and flashed to Li Mao's side. He clenched his fist into a tiger claw and chopped down. If it had been the Li Mao from a few moves ago, he would have had no choice but to take this attack head-on. But now, he lowered his center of gravity as he raised his right arm. Bam! Just as the tiger fist hit his right arm, Feng Xiaoquan suddenly changed his crane beak and used the force to jump and peck at Li Mao's temple. Li Mao bent his knee and lowered his center of gravity as his right arm was hit. He lowered his body and avoided Feng Xiaoquan's crane beak. At the same time, he exerted force with his left foot and turned his body into a cannonball, crashing into Feng Xiaoquan's chest and abdomen. Feng Xiaoquan didn't take it head-on. He stepped on the crane's steps and dodged nimbly. He changed his position and attacked again. Within a minute, he launched a series of attacks. However, Li Mao, who had already calmed down, seemed to have returned to the dead of winter. He had returned to the days when he had endured the darkness, faced the cold wind, listened to the sound of firecrackers, and trained hard. He no longer panicked. Every move he made was full of posture, and his defense was watertight. It was in this month that he really mastered the 24 blizzard strikes. As they fought, Li Mao suddenly found that Feng Xiaoquan's strength had weakened a lot. There was also a sluggishness in his steps. He had reached his limit. Once he made the judgment, Li Mao didn't think too much to avoid hesitation. He immediately slid and pounced on his opponent. Feng Xiaoquan's heart tightened. He abandoned all distracting thoughts. He straightened his spine and wriggled his waist. He raised his hands and turned them into the wings of a red-crowned crane. He fiercely hit Li Mao's temples on both sides. When his palms were about to hit his opponent's raised arms, he suddenly lifted his hips and changed his center of gravity. He assumed the posture of a golden rooster standing on one leg. His right foot kicked out silently like a tiger's stomp. Tiger crane combined attack. Li Mao had just blocked the attack of the red-crowned crane when he saw the enemy's right foot coming at him. He couldn't resist and had to curl up and roll on the ground. While rolling, he felt quite sad. He finally could play normally, but he seemed to have fallen into the enemy's trap and was about to fail. At this moment, Li Mao suddenly realized that Feng Xiaoquan didn't catch up in time and left a gap for him. Was he really tired? Was that the last counterattack? While thinking, Li Mao straightened his back and stood up again. Facing Feng Xiaoquan, who had just approached him, he put his feet inward and drove his spine. He fiercely threw a blast punch. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan raised his right arm and blocked in time, but his body couldn't help but shake. Obviously, he had reached his limit. Li Mao didn't spare him and threw another punch. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan's hands were weak and his stance was broken. Li Mao's eyes were almost red. He slid closer, leaned his body and fiercely hit him. Feng Xiaoquan leaned back and tried to dodge, but his body was empty. He couldn't maintain his center of gravity and fell down. Li Mao rushed up, tightened his thighs, bounced his knees, and kicked out the tip of his foot, stopping at Feng Xiaoquan's throat. Round 3, Li Mao wins. The referee raised his right hand and announced the result. I won. I won. Li Mao couldn't believe his ears. In an instant, he seemed to have returned to the university martial arts competition. At that time, he failed to live up to everyone's expectations and was easily defeated because of nervousness. Now, did I finally win? At this moment, many images flashed in front of Li Mao's eyes. There was Chen Zhonghua's disappointed and bleeding fist, Lin Kei's pain covered with a hot towel, Coach Shi's words of encouragement, his annoyance again and again, the hard training day after day with clenched teeth, the bone-chilling winter wind, the silence in the darkest hours of the morning, and the scene where Lu Cheng and the others carefully took care of his emotions and racked their brains to help him relieve his nervousness. In the cheers of the whole stadium, he couldn't help but turn to look at the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. There, Lu Cheng was holding Yan Zhika's hand, Yan Zhika was holding Guo Qing was holding Li Xiaowen was holding Lin Hua was holding Sun Jian, and Sun Jian was holding Lin Quebec. When Li Mao looked at them, they raised their hands at the same time and shouted, Li Mao, come on. Li Mao's eyes turned red and tears flowed out uncontrollably. He knew that he was locked on by the big screen and everyone could see the details, but his vision couldn't be blurred. An 8-foot man was crying like a child at this moment. Chapter 155. Li Mao wasn't a pretty girl like Yan Zhika, and he wasn't as famous as Lin Quebec. His classmates only cared about whether he had won or not. They weren't curious about him at all and didn't want to find out more about him. It wasn't until they saw him crying like a child that they started to be surprised and their emotions were aroused. It's just an ordinary preliminaries. Is there a need to cry like this? Some people in the audience were confused and felt that Li Mao's reaction was too exaggerated. There were also some students who suddenly remembered the trash that they had cursed and scolded last year. They recognized the tearful Li Mao and said, "Hey, I know him. Last year, at the critical moment of the martial arts club's group advancement, he was the one who was trampled on like a wooden stake and ruined our absolute advantage. I almost cried because of him. Yes, yes, yes. He's that nervous bro." Some of the students were immediately enlightened. It wasn't until now that they understood why Li Mao was crying. It was a sign that he had drawn a clear line with his past. It was a heavy burden that had been lifted from his heart. It was a sign that he had made up for some of his mistakes. It was a sign that he was grateful to his companions for not abandoning him. It was easy to win against others, but difficult to win against oneself. The students who understood the whole story felt a little warm and a little sour. One of them thought of his stage fright and raised his hand, shouting loudly, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. You can do it, Li Mao." While the audience was crying in surprise and forgot to cheer, this high-pitched voice pierced the silence and rang in many people's ears. The rest of the students who had mixed feelings just now seemed to have received a call. They all raised their hands and shouted in unison, "You can do it, Li Mao." These voices converged into a torrent, driving the whole audience and creating a roar that almost blew the roof off. "You can do it, Li Mao." The tsunami-like cheers echoed in Li Mao's ears, blurring his vision with tears. He reached out and covered his face, murmuring in a low voice, "Thank you, thank you." Feng Xiaoquan climbed up from the ground and looked around in confusion. He didn't know why the audience suddenly burst out with more enthusiasm than before. His heart was sullen and unwilling to accept the result of the previous match. If he hadn't used up so much energy in the previous match, he wouldn't have suddenly felt empty after using the tiger and crane combined attack. There shouldn't have been a pause, which ruined the victory that was so easy to obtain. The reason why he consumed so much energy in the previous match was because his fighting style was too aggressive. He didn't take advantage of the crane steps, and gave Yan Jika a chance to use 24 blizzard strikes. The reason why his fighting style became aggressive was because he wanted to help his sweetheart get revenge and save her face. Thinking of this, Feng Xiaoquan had nowhere to vent his grievances and unwillingness. He turned his head and walked down the stone steps in a daze, unwilling to stay a second longer. At this moment, he realized that Qian Ruoyu was whispering something into Jiang Dingyi's ear. She was very close to him and her attitude was very intimate. His heart and face sank at the same time. He saw Jiang Dingyi stood up like an iron tower and walked towards him. "What did Ruoyu say to you just now?" Feng Xiaoquan couldn't help but ask when they were about to pass each other. Jiang Dingyi smiled slightly and said, "She said Li Mao consumed a lot of energy and asked me to take advantage of my strength and force him to fight and end it quickly." "Take advantage of your strength?" Feng Xiaoquan murmured. The haze between his eyebrows became more obvious. He was angry that he was looked down upon and also sad that his sweetheart didn't like him. When he returned to his seat, he saw Qian Ruoyu's tight face and tight lips. She was nervous, expectant, and a little depressed. His mood suddenly softened and he said softly, "With old Jiang, we can definitely win." Qian Ruoyu turned her eyes and looked at him in surprise. "I hope so. You can't lose to the substitute of Songqing University Martial Arts Club." How long had it been since Xiaoquan called him old Jiang? At this moment, she suddenly blamed herself. Because of her greed, selfishness, vanity, and hesitation, the two boys who played together since childhood were like strangers. The thought flashed and was quickly thrown to the back of her mind. Her attention returned to the current competition. She wanted to win like never before. Songqing University Martial Arts Club didn't send any main force. Even the real coach didn't come. If she and others lost the competition, how could she face Jiangdong's parents? She formed the dream squad, not to enjoy being surrounded and play house like a child. She wanted to prove to those who thought she was spoiled that she could also do it and rely on herself. I'm not a child anymore. I have dreams too. At Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats, Lu Cheng and the other members cheered for Li Mao in the form of a crowd. Then they let go of their hands and returned to their seats. Sun Jian had just sat down when he suddenly remembered something. He stood up abruptly, walked to Lu Cheng, and leaned close to him. Cheng, no, Coach Lu. What did you say to Li Mao just now? What secret did you teach him? He actually managed to get over the initial nervousness? I really admire you now. I feel that you have some kind of magical power. You whispered something to Yan Zhika, and she won when she just entered the arena. Then you whispered something to Li Mao, and he won when he was overly nervous. You also whispered something to him. Why don't you whisper something to me later? Looking at Sun Jian's curious and expectant face and feeling Yan Zhika's gaze, Lu Qing chuckled and said, what I said to Senior Li Mao was, front back back up down left right low heavy leg followed by light punch. What the hell is that? Sun Jian blurted out with a blank face. Lu Qing looked at Yan Zhika's confused expression and chuckled, make a move. Make a big move. Stop joking. Sun Jian finally realized that he was fooled by Lu Qing while Yan Zhika gently pinched Lu Cheng's thigh. Lu Qing stopped laughing and said, actually, it's more or less the same. I think Feng Xiaokuan wants to catch Senior Li Mao's nervousness and will attack first. His right hand has been hit by Yan Zhika twice. Although it won't be injured, it will affect his ability to use force without enough time to recover. So I told Senior Li Mao not to think about anything else. Just slide to the left, kick to the bottom, and punch to the right. After a few moves like this, as long as he hasn't lost, Senior Li Mao should be able to recover. Yan Zhika felt proud of what he said and the sweet dimples on her cheeks appeared again. I see. It's quite suitable for Li Mao's situation. But the premise is that your vision is sharp enough, you are experienced enough, and you have a good grasp of Feng Xiaokuan's mind. Sun Jian sighed and admired Lu Qing more and more. Lu Qing said modestly, it doesn't matter if I'm wrong. There won't be a worse result. Yan Zhika empathized with her boyfriend's praise. She quietly lowered her right hand and held Lu Cheng's left hand. Lu Qing caught her hand and scratched her palm. Then what did you say to your girlfriend? Sun Jian was still curious. A rookie who just entered the arena for the first time actually won a clean victory after a series of mistakes. I told her that I would lend her my strength. Lu Qing didn't want others to think that Yan Zhika won because of his guidance. He started to talk nonsense with a serious face. This kind of thing should be known by the girl herself. Yan Zhika almost burst out laughing. She was a little touched and opened her right hand, clasping it tightly with Lu Cheng's. Really? Sun Jian obviously didn't believe it. Lu Qing laughed and said, of course it's true. This is called encouragement of love. You and senior sister Lin are an old couple, so you won't understand. Sun Jian looked at him disdainfully and nodded slightly, half believing and half doubting. Yan Zhika blushed and hummed, turning her head back to the arena. At this time, Jiang Dingyi had already stood in front of Li Mao and the referee had also raised his right hand. Sun Jian didn't return to his seat but just stood beside Lu Cheng and watched. Li Mao quickly wiped away his tears. He felt that the heavy burden in his heart had been completely washed away by the crying just now. This cleared up his emotions and made him feel relaxed. I just need to exhaust him. He secretly made a decision. In the competition just now, he was carrying a heavy burden in the battle, so his consumption was more than doubled. Now he was almost an arrow at the end of its flight. The referee waved his right hand, the fourth round, start. Jiang Dingyi was nearly 1.9 meters tall and his skin was bronze. He didn't look like a young man under 20 years old at all. At this time, he closed the distance between them in 2 big strides. His right arm tightened and made a chopping posture in front of him. Li Mao took action immediately. He twisted his waist and shook out his right arm so that his fist was like the tip of a spear to his opponent, making a crisp sound of tearing the airflow. Jiang Dingyi's chopping right hand suddenly stopped. It turned out to be a feint to trick Li Mao into attacking first. After that, he directly urged the strength of his shoulder joint and elbow joint and quickly chopped his opponent's wrist fiercely. Earth-cracking palm. Bang! Li Mao's wrist wasn't the strongest point of force. After being chopped by Jiang Dingyi, he suddenly felt a sharp pain and withdrew his right hand like an electric shock. But because of this, he borrowed a little strength and slipped to the right side of his opponent. Enduring the pain that hadn't disappeared yet, he fiercely punched Jiang Dingyi's waist with his left hand. Jiang Dingyi lowered his body and bent his back. His right elbow hit out horizontally and blocked Li Mao's fist in the form of a hilt. Bang! In the dull sound, Jiang Dingyi used his elbow as the fulcrum, his arm as the blade and his palm as the tip to make a diagonal chopping. Li Mao held his elbow and bounced his back. He dodged again and came to the back of his opponent. When he was about to launch an attack, Jiang Dingyi suddenly twisted his waist and pulled back his leg, sweeping backward and sideways. Bang! Jiang Dingyi's kick was so powerful that it kept exploding in the air and fiercely whipped to Li Mao. Li Mao quickly lowered his shoulders and made a stance to block the kick. Bang! Under the collision, Li Mao only felt that his body was weak for a while. He couldn't continue his strength and was swept to lose his center of gravity and staggered to the side. Jiang Dingyi pulled back his leg and touched the ground. When he was about to attack, Li Mao, who had just recovered his center of gravity, didn't try to stabilize his body. He kicked his feet and counterattacked. I'm close to the limit. I must exhaust him. Only this thought was echoing in his mind at this time. Facing this kind of hurried counterattack, Jiang Dingyi didn't avoid at all. He raised his left arm and blocked Li Mao's right fist. He lifted his left foot and leaned his body. His right hand seemed to be holding a sharp knife and fiercely stabbed to his opponent's abdomen. Li Mao put his left hand close to his body to block, contracted his abdomen, and bounced his waist and back. Unexpectedly, he ignored Jiang Dingyi's hand and bumped his left arm and left shoulder, trying to penetrate the city wall with a crossbow that was close to its limit. Bang! Jiang Dingyi endured the pain and seized the opportunity to hold Li Mao's body. Then he tripped him and lifted him up and heavily threw him to the ground. Thump! Li Mao was dizzy and couldn't stand up for a while. The referee glanced at them and announced the result: the fourth round, Jiang Dingyi wins. Jiang Dingyi rubbed his left shoulder and looked at Li Mao with complex eyes. He didn't expect that his opponent would fight so hard that he was hit by Li Mao carelessly. Fortunately, his opponent's strength was exhausted and he was not injured. Seeing this, Lu Qing sighed and whispered in Sun Jian's ear, "Senior brother Sun, you are experienced and not afraid of the stage. I have nothing to say. But since you insist, I will say something. First, attack the left side violently." "What's the second?" Sun Jian asked curiously. Lu Qing smiled and said, "The second? CK him to death." Sun Jian couldn't help laughing at first. Then he put on a serious face, clenched his fist and growled, CK him to death. Chapter 156. CK him to death. As the words left his mouth, Sun Jian felt himself brimming with battle intent. Even his emotions were in high spirits. He took a step forward and walked towards the arena, only to see Li Mao struggling to get up. Li Mao shook his head and walked back, swaying unsteadily. When he met Li Mao, who was still a little dizzy, Sun Jian took the initiative to stretch out his fist and said sincerely, "Good job." Li Mao instinctively straightened his back and couldn't hide his smile. He clenched his fist and lightly bumped with Sun Jian's to complete the ceremony. "Senior brother Sun, come on." Sun Jian nodded. He passed by Li Mao and saw the road leading to glory and glory. This is the last battle of this game. Let me end it. This time, I'm not just going to make a pose. Sun Jian suddenly had some feelings when he went up along the stone steps. He was born in a professor's family. He was promoted to the university where his father studied through the affiliated kindergarten, affiliated primary school, affiliated middle school and key high school. He hardly suffered any setbacks and was never bullied by his classmates. At first, his purpose of learning martial arts was purely to show off in front of his childhood friends. Later, he used it to escape his father's increasingly higher requirements and took the martial arts club as his refuge to get peace and freedom. With such a mentality, of course he wouldn't have stage fright. But on the other hand, he didn't have the tenacity to face difficulties. When he shouted F***ck him to death, just now, he felt that his gentle and well-educated appearance was torn off and the barbarism hidden deep in his heart was awakened. He had the impulse to challenge the big devil. When he stepped onto the arena and saw the 1.9 m tall iron tower, Sun Jian instantly felt that he was very small and insignificant. He had no choice but to look up at his opponent. It was just like how he usually looked up at his father, who was the leader of his subjects. In his heart, Sun Jian was so high that he could not look up to him, but also so fearsome. Sun Jian's frown, seriousness, and orders had created a deep shadow in his heart. He couldn't challenge the authority and was unwilling to do as he was told. Then he could only escape. Now, he didn't want to be like this anymore. He had to face it eventually. Looking at the tall and mighty Jiang Dingy who seemed to be invincible, he roared secretly, F***ck him to death. Lu Qing didn't know anything about Sun Jian's psychological changes. He was very relaxed now and didn't have too much expectation for the final result. He was already satisfied with the development of today's matches. Yan Zhika had won the match on her first appearance and accumulated experience in dealing with dangerous situations. Li Mao had finally defeated the devil in his heart and obtained the victory he had been dreaming of. What else was there to be dissatisfied with? As for the final victory, it would be the most dazzling jewel at the top of the crown. It would be good to have it, but not having it would not damage the essence of the crown. At this moment, Li Mao returned to his seat amidst the applause and stopped in front of Lu Qing. Lu Qing extended his right hand and clenched it into a fist. You can do it. Li Mao's eyes reddened again. He reached out his right hand, clenched it into a fist, and bumped it with Lu Qing's. Thank you. Thank you for never giving up on me. Lu Qing wanted to recall some famous sayings to encourage senior brother Li Mao. If he couldn't remember, he would make one up himself. But the referee on the arena didn't give him the chance. After Jiang Dingy and Sun Jian stood in their respective positions, the referee waved his right hand and announced the start of the last match. Sun Jian had more actual matches than Lu Qing, so he knew to attack Jiang Dingy's left shoulder, which was hit by Li Mao without Lu Qing's reminder. When the word "start" reverberated, he suddenly bent down and moved to the enemy's left side quickly with snake steps. Straightening his spine, Sun Jian tightened his right leg and pulled it out, kicking toward Jiang Dingy's left knee. Jiang Dingy was good at strength but not flexible enough. He didn't compete with Sun Jian in body movement. Facing this, he quickly visualized the scene of the ground cracking and the volcano erupting in his mind. The trousers on his thighs suddenly straightened, outlining his well-defined muscles. Bam! A side kick bounced out with earth-shattering momentum, and arrived first, colliding head-on with Sun Jian's whip kick. Bang! Sun Jian swung his right leg back. He felt sore at the place where the leg hit and almost lost his center of gravity. This made him deeply feel the gap in strength between them. Purely speaking of physical strength, he was weaker than Jiang Dingy, but Jiang Dingy also mastered meditation and had a short burst of visualization. Sun Jian gritted his teeth and didn't let the depression affect him. He stepped back with his right foot and straightened his back. Then his right fist suddenly hit Jiang Dingy's left shoulder like a cannonball. He and Li Mao's 24 blizzard strikes were not in meditation and did not have the corresponding visualization method to coordinate. They could only rely on their experience and feelings to barely borrow a little strength during the process. It could be considered as mastery but not mastery. Therefore, once they encountered a situation where the enemy's strength was too great, there would be problems in the connection of the moves. They could not complete the borrowing of strength and could not make the fight more fierce and crazy. Just now, Li Mao was facing Feng Xiaoquan, who was exhausted and weakened in all aspects, so he barely used 24 blizzard strikes. But now Sun Jian obviously couldn't imitate his junior brother. But he also had his own advantages, that was, he could fiercely attack the injured part of the enemy. Jiang Dingyi did not move his left shoulder, but simply used his right foot as a fulcrum to turn his body backward. At the same time, he straightened his right hand into a palm knife and fiercely chopped down in front of him. It happened to hit Sun Jian's fist. Sun Jian's right arm bounced back and quickly retracted his attack. Sun Jian didn't feel annoyed, instead, he was a little bit happy. Did Jiang Dingyi's performance just now mean that his left shoulder was seriously injured and it was almost impossible for him to use his left hand? He slid his feet and went to the left side of Jiang Dingyi. Then he opened his left hand and grabbed Jiang Dingyi's left hand like a fierce claw. Once Jiang Dingyi grabbed Jiang Dingyi's left hand, he would immediately break the tendons and dislocate the bones. Sun Jian was different from Li Mao and other members of the martial arts club who came from ordinary families. In the past, he had hired famous teachers to practice martial arts, so there were more than just 24 blizzard strikes. If he practiced the flower-splitting willow hand to a deep level, he could almost make the enemy lose an arm by grabbing, and tearing. Jiang Dingyi's expression didn't change. He wriggled his spine and bounced his back to the right side to avoid Sun Jian's grab. Sun Jian was happy in his heart, so he directly caught up with Jiang Dingyi and attacked Jiang Dingyi's left side continuously. Jiang Dingyi used his legs to resist, sometimes changed his body shape, and sometimes dodged. But he couldn't get rid of Sun Jian and was gradually forced to the edge of the ring. When Sun Jian was about to kill him while he was sick, Jiang Dingyi's legs suddenly stopped like two nails firmly nailed to the edge of the arena. His body suddenly turned around with the help of the rebound force. He raised his left arm and turned it into a guandao with the help of visualization. Then he swept it out in a horrible way. At this moment, he was like a general who was riding a horse to war, dragging a guandao and being chased by the enemy. Suddenly he tightened the reins of the horse, so that the horse stopped abruptly and raised its front hooves. Then he took advantage of the force to counterattack and unexpectedly cut the enemy who was chasing him. The guandao style. Jiang Dingyi had been waiting for this opportunity to cut Sun Jian under his horse for a long time. Sun Jian rushed so hard that he couldn't avoid it. He could only take a breath forcibly and raised his left arm to block on his side. Bang! Jiang Dingyi's left hand fiercely cut Sun Jian's left arm. The guandao style, which had been accumulating power for a long time, showed an amazing power and directly whipped Sun Jian into the air. Flying. Yanjika held Lu Cheng's left hand tightly and her beautiful eyes were full of worries. She hoped that everything could be perfect today. When she won, the martial arts club could also win the game. Senior brother Sun took the initiative to fly. Lu Cheng stared at the ring and comforted the girl. Sun Jian flew out. When he was about to land, he suddenly stretched out his hands and pressed on the ground with the strength of his fascia joints. Bang! His body suddenly bounced to another direction and narrowly avoided Jiang Dingyi's guandao style, which followed closely. In the bouncing, Sun Jian turned over in the air and landed on the ground with both feet. Then he bounced again to change his position and finally stabilized his center of gravity. Catapult body movement. It was a martial art which was as famous as the modern blast fist and gun finger. It imitated the jump attack of the bullet. In the previous attack, if Sun Jian didn't fly out, his left arm would at least be fractured. It could be seen that the guandao style was horrible after it broke out. As soon as Sun Jian steadied himself, he saw Jiang Dingyi pouncing on him aggressively. He didn't choose to avoid. Instead, he clenched his teeth and went to him directly. There was only one thought in his mind: I don't believe that your left arm is fine after being hit by Li Mao and using such a fierce guandao style. I can't give him a chance to recover. Facing this, Jiang Dingyi's face finally changed slightly. They approached each other instantly. Sun Jian ducked and dodged to the side of the enemy. Then he used his hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders and other body parts to attack the enemy directly, as if he was practicing with a wooden man. Bang, 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 they kept fighting with each other. The fierce battle made the audience break out in cold sweat. When Sun Jian thought that he was going to be crushed by the enemy's strength, he suddenly found that the enemy's left arm movement was half a beat slower. He didn't have time to think carefully. He pushed his elbow horizontally and took advantage of the situation to attack. Puff! His elbow hit Jiang Dingyi's left arm, which was not strong enough, leaving a big gap on the side of his body. Chance! Sun Jian had no time to think carefully about the battle situation. Following his instinct, he straightened his elbow and threw out his forearm with the help of the rebound force and the joint force. Bang! His forearm with his fist hit Jiang Dingyi's ribs on the side. The strength was not too great, but it made the enemy scream and shrink his body suddenly. Sun Jian didn't show any mercy. He blocked the counterattack with his right hand, opened his left fist and caught the enemy. Then he took a step with his right foot and put it between Jiang Dingyi's legs. At this time, there was only one thought in his mind, *CK him to death. Damn! He suddenly exerted his strength and threw his opponent to the edge of the ring not far away with his right leg as the fulcrum. Thump! Jiang Dingyi fell down with his back on the ground, accompanied by the audience's surprise and shouts. Sun Jian gasped and raised his right hand. He shouted secretly in his heart, "Cool." The referee also raised his right hand and announced the result, Round 5, Sun Jian wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Chapter 157. The spectators who were breaking out in cold sweat heaved a sigh of relief. The whole stadium was filled with thunderous cheers for the long-awaited victory in this martial arts arena. Although they did not prepare trumpets or other items to assist them, they still created a lively atmosphere. Qian Ruoyu was in the midst of it. Her face was extremely ugly. She felt wronged and angry. She wanted to leave without a second more. I'm an adult, not a spoiled child. I have to bear the responsibility for what I did. She bit her lower lip with her white and neat teeth and secretly prepared herself. She didn't turn around and leave but waited for Jiang Dingyi's return. Jiang Dingyi was also quite depressed at this moment. He was unwilling to admit defeat. His meditation was not deep enough and had not reached the level where he could control the details of his muscles. He was unable to forcefully pull back his center of gravity at the crucial moment and dodge. His fighting style was not guerrilla warfare. After being forced into close combat by Sun Jian, the numbness and pain in his left shoulder were magnified to the extreme. This was the cause of his defeat in an instant. If only I was not careless and bumped into Li Mao. He thought in annoyance. He felt that he had no face to face Qian Ruoyu and his footsteps became slower. When he walked back to the Dream Squad seating area, Qian Ruoyu took a deep breath and said, "The main reason for today's loss is me. Dingyi, Xiaokuan, if you guys were at your peak condition when facing Sun Jian and Li Mao, your chances of winning would definitely be above 80%. I underestimated the enemy and lost to Yan Zhika too quickly. You guys had no choice but to exhaust yourselves in advance, which led to the loss. It's my fault. I apologize to everyone." After hearing Qian Ruoyu's words, not only Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaokuan, but even Yu Qiao and the other substitutes were stunned. They did not expect the proud little princess to not lose her temper and vent her anger on others. Instead, she started to reflect on herself. Was this considered a little more mature? Feng Xiaokuan came back to his senses and immediately comforted her. "Ruoyu, it's not your fault. Our main failure was due to the lack of equal information. Yan Zhika of Songqing University Martial Arts Club hid her strength too well. No one would have thought that she had already achieved a small success in meditation and reached a higher level in 24 blizzard strikes. Yes, none of us expected this, Jiang Dingyi said. Qian Ruoyu felt better in her heart. She was touched and her eyes were red and about to cry. She took a deep breath, steadied her emotions, and pointed to the other side of the ring. Even if we lose, we don't want to lose face. Let's go over and say hello, lest others say that we don't have a good upbringing. Generally speaking, after the entire battle in the group arena had ended, both parties would have to meet and greet each other as a sign of politeness. However, this would often not happen. Of course, the victor would be happy to do so, but how could the loser be in the mood to do so? Lu Qing imitated the professional martial arts competition he had watched and led the home team to clap their hands towards the stands as a sign of gratitude for their support. Waves of enthusiastic applause and cheers followed. At this moment, he saw Qian Ruoyu and the others coming over, so he called Sun Jian, Li Mao and Yan Zhika to welcome them. Qian Ruoyu glanced at the pure and beautiful Yan Zhika, then turned to Lu Qing and exhaled. You guys played very well today. Lu Qing was in a good mood and naturally became modest. He pointed at his girlfriend and smiled. It's mainly because we have a secret weapon that caused you to misjudge. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who would win. This was the truth. If both parties were to compare one-on-one, their own team was indeed inferior. Yan Zhika, who was praised, was proud, happy and shy. She glanced at Lu Qing and turned her head to look to the side. Her expression couldn't be hidden from the observant people, which made Yu Qiao, Feng Xiaokuan and the others secretly sigh. Beauties are indeed taken. To Lu Qing, a strong professional ninth pin at 19 years old might not be eye-catching, but to reach such a level in just half a year, people couldn't help but take him seriously. Therefore, they didn't feel like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. They just felt that it was as it should be. Hearing Lu Cheng's honest words, Qian Ruoyu's mood eased a lot, and her self-reproach also lessened a lot. She revealed a faint smile and said, based on your current performance, there's really hope for you guys to advance from the group stage. I wish you guys better and better. Lu Qing also smiled and replied, then we wish you guys better and better, and improve in every match. Qian Ruoyu suddenly felt that this person wasn't bad, and regained some of her spirits. She thanked him and then led the Dream Squad back to the away team's changing room. Yan Zhika looked at their backs, rolled her eyes, and sighed. Not as delicate as I thought. Speaking of this, she couldn't help but laugh. Also not as turbulent as I thought. She vaguely felt a little regretful that she didn't see the real-life version of the melodramatic emotional entanglement. Yeah. Lu Qing turned his head to look at her, and also felt a little regretful. Sun Jian and Li Mao didn't know anything about the gossip of the Dream Squad. After hearing Yan Zhika's words, they were at a loss. When they saw her and Lu Qing looking at each other tacitly and smiling, as if they had a common little secret, they curled their lips and turned to leave. Let's go back to the changing room. Lu Qing smiled and held Yan Zhika's little hand, declaring his sovereignty in front of thousands of people. Yan Zhika blushed slightly, but still generously let him hold her hand. She wanted to use this to get rid of any pursuits that might arise from today's competition. That was too annoying. Songqing University was a school with strict management. Although there was no lack of couples getting close to each other, they usually did so in the woods by the lake or on the streets. No one had ever held hands in front of so many people. Seeing this scene, many of the students had the urge to kick up a fuss. Some whistled, and some shouted loudly. The scene suddenly became interesting. Yan Zhika shyly lowered her head, quickened her pace, and hurried to the changing room. When she was about to reach the door, she realized that Lu Qing suddenly stopped beside her. She raised her head and saw Geezer Shi drinking wine at the door. Coach Shi, why are you here? Didn't you have something to do at the last minute? Lu Qing was equally surprised. Geezer Shi chuckled. If I didn't have something to do at the last minute, where would you get the chance to be in the limelight? If I were here, I don't know how nervously Mao would be. Besides, I'm old. I've been away from you youngsters for too long. I really don't know how to encourage you guys. Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika suddenly understood Coach Shi's good intentions. Let me borrow your boyfriend for a few minutes. I have something to tell him. Geezer Shi looked at Yan Zhika with a smile. Yan Zhika was embarrassed and annoyed by the elder's teasing. She let go of her right hand and ran into the changing room without looking back. Lu Cheng followed Geezer Shi to a secluded corner of the changing room. He smiled easily and said, I really thought you had something to do at the last minute, Master. He thought they had found the ancient mansion of Longhu Immortal. Geezer Shi laughed and looked at Lu Cheng. What did you think I had to do? Well, didn't you mention last time that some friends came from afar to find the ancient mansion of Longhu Immortal? I thought they finally found it and invited you to help. Lu Cheng was excited and wanted to take this opportunity to inquire. Geezer Shi took a sip of wine and chuckled. They did find it. Last night, they invited me to explore Zhaoshan Lake. In the end, it was just a villa with nothing. Zhaoshan Lake? Isn't it Weishui Lake? Lu Cheng was stunned. He felt that his master and his friends had mistakenly fallen for it. Geezer Shi looked at him and said, Do you feel relieved after hearing this? Lu Cheng was stunned at first. Then all the hair on his body stood up and his whole body tightened. What does master mean? Does he know that I have the Jin Dan? Geezer Shi chuckled and said, Brat, don't be nervous. Humans, unless they are really the best or the second best, grow up with a little bit of luck. The only difference is when you get it. Just like the golden scales, you can only turn into a real dragon after encountering a storm. As your master, I have lived for a long time. What have I not seen and what have I not experienced? Why would I care about your little luck? Little adventure? Lu Cheng was stunned. He calmed down a little and said, Master, when did you know? I only guessed it last night. Geezer Shi smiled proudly. Half a year ago, on the day of the Martial Arts Club's welcoming day, I felt a strange power fluctuation near Weishui Lake. Unfortunately, it was a little far and I didn't find anything when I went there. After that, you showed a strong talent for meditation and seemingly unlimited physical strength. You displayed the frost force but awakened the power of flame. These things don't mean much when you look at them alone or put them together. After all, there are plenty of martial artists who awaken their talents later in life. But last night, when we explored the Longhu Immortal's side residence, I found out that he used ice and fire to imitate yin and yang to form the core. I immediately understood. Damn it, that's the only way to awaken the frost flame. Thus, I linked everything together and went to explore the Weishui Lake alone. I found this thing. Hee hee, stinking brat, I've walked on more bridges than you have walked on. Do you really think you can hide it from me? I'm a martial artist with physical invulnerability. Cultivation is just a reference for me. What do you have to be afraid of? Geezer Shi fished out a half-burnt and half-frozen white bone carp from his pocket. With a casual shake of his hand, the carp turned into powder. Indeed, the older the ginger, the wiser. Lu Cheng listened with admiration and fear. He confessed, Master, you guessed right. I was training by the lake and happened to encounter this carp. I got a little of Longhu Immortal's legacy from it. Speaking of this, he couldn't help but ask, Master, I've improved by leaps and bounds because of Longhu Immortal's legacy. Are you disappointed? Fortunately, I've seen the perseverance, temperament and fighting talent you've shown in the past 6 months. I'm satisfied. You're not the kind of person who's frivolous because of an adventure. Geezer Shi nodded slightly and said, I didn't find Longhu Immortal's villa in Weishui Lake. It seems that there's something fishy there. You can consider this matter after you've completely digested the legacy. Lu Cheng thought for a while and took the initiative to ask, but digesting it is very dangerous. Every time I awaken it, I'll suffer a backlash. Master, do you have any ideas? He tacitly agreed that Geezer Shi knew that he had obtained the Jin Dan. Seeing that his master was kind and not greedy, the worry and haze that had been hidden in his heart for half a year suddenly dissipated. Chapter 158. Backlash? Geyser was unusually serious. He chewed on the word and asked, "Let me ask you something. Do you want to be a martial artist or a cultivator in the future? Once you enter the high-ranked Dan stage, you can't regret it." Lu Qing grew up watching professional martial arts competitions and was influenced by them day and night. He had a dream and a pure and passionate love. He answered without hesitation, "Of course I want to be a martial artist." More importantly, the inheritance of the cultivators had been cut off. Relying on the records left behind to practice was twice the effort and half the effort. On the contrary, on the road of martial arts, there were teachers to guide you, lovers to consult, and so on. There were tons of relevant materials and companions to learn from and discuss with. Very good. Geyser praised and said, "Then you must always remember that martial arts is the main thing and cultivation is the secondary thing. Stones from other mountains can be used to improve jade, but it doesn't mean that it can be the jade you want. On the road of cultivation, the most taboo is to be indecisive, unwilling to make a choice, and unable to distinguish between priorities." "Okay, tell me how you use it to digest it." Lu Qing said carefully, "It can help me recover from fatigue. I use this to constantly squeeze myself and improve my physical strength." Before he could finish, Geyser said unhappily, "Sure enough. Back then, this old man was out of breath because of you." Without waiting for Lu Qing's explanation, he sighed and said, "Not bad. You know how to purposefully use the adventure to improve your own ability instead of relying purely on the adventure. With such a temperament and willpower, I didn't take you as my disciple in vain." "Hey, continue. Didn't you interrupt me?" Lu Qing complained in his heart. After thinking about what he had just said, he said, "It can also help me enter meditation and let me quickly conceal spirit and qi. After half a year of hard practice, I can enter meditation skillfully without it. I'm even close to the level of Deshang, but I still can't achieve inward vision." Geyser nodded slightly to confirm but didn't interrupt. "In addition to these 2 points, when I use it to the limit, its balance will be broken and a little power will leak out. After the backlash, it will merge into my body and create a supernatural ability." Lu Qing said honestly, "The first time it backfired, I almost died in Yanling. It's a bit like the physical invulnerability stage." Geyser said thoughtfully, "Longhu Immortal emphasizes the balance of ice and fire. The backlash of awakening the supernatural ability should be similar to the first time. With your current physical condition, you can try it." Lu Qing said weakly, "I've tried it. It's similar to the backlash of awakening the supernatural ability of flame." The corner of Geyser's mouth twitched. He was both annoyed and amused at the same time. "Brat, you've grown up. In philosophical terms, your subjective initiative is really strong. Master, you also know philosophy?" Lu Qing evaded the main point and dwelling on the trivial. "Do you think I'm illiterate? Since you've already awakened the Frost's special ability, I'll be able to teach you a few things after your arm recovers. As for the second round of awakening, don't be anxious. Wait until your fleshly body's blood and qi reaches the peak of the body refinement realm, and you'll be able to release and retract it freely before you attempt it. At that time, remember to look for me. With me watching over you, no matter how bad it is, I'll be able to protect your little life." TSK, young people nowadays are so stupid and bold. Lu Qing felt guilty and didn't dare to respond. "For the time being, you should digest it at your own pace. Let me think about how to extract the essence and discard the impurities, and integrate the things of cultivation into martial arts." Geyser laughed self-deprecatingly. "I have to be thick-skinned and ask for some research materials." "Research materials?" Lu Qing asked curiously. Geyser said with a faint smile, "Do you think Longhu Immortal was the only cultivator in ancient times? The related heritage was discovered one after another. That's why we can be sure that this path leads to the same destination as martial arts. But we can't break free from the shackles. Because we live in the mountains all year round, the heritage is inevitably cut off. The military has collected a lot of relics and has a deeper understanding of cultivation. They have also specially selected a group of volunteers to walk this path for observation. If the things on paper are not put into practice, they are just empty talk. Speaking of this, he sighed. But the military's information won't be of much use to you. You want to walk the path of martial arts that incorporates part of the characteristics of cultivation, but it doesn't coincide with their current direction. You still have to see what my old friend can learn from the relics of Longhu Immortal. Don't be too anxious. Focus on training your body to the peak first. Yes, Master. Lu Qing answered sincerely. It would be a great gain for him if his master could watch over him the next time he squeezed Jindan. Gizershur nodded and resumed his playful look. Well, that's it. Go do what you need to do. Lu Qing was about to turn back to the locker room when he couldn't help but ask, Master, are you really not curious about this? Gizershur smiled and said, Do you want to hear the truth or the lie? What's the truth? What's the lie? Lu Qing asked with the mentality of getting to the bottom of the matter. The lie is that I've been in physical invulnerability for many years and my path has long been established. The things of cultivation can only be used as a reference or a temporary use. It can't directly promote my improvement. So even though I've cooperated with the military for many years, I still haven't paid much attention to their research on cultivation. Gizershur chuckled and said, As for the truth, I'm old and can't take it anymore. Even if combining cultivation with other things can help me advance further, I don't dare to try it rashly. Isn't it better to have an old friend to lead the way and a lively lab rat like you to experience it? What you can get, I have plenty of channels to get. That's true. Hearing the truth, Lu Qing was completely relieved and relaxed. Gizershur took out a small flagon and took a sip. Humming a Chinese opera, he turned around and left leisurely. Watching his master leave, Lu Qing's mood was like the surface of a lake that calmed down after violent ups and downs. There were ripples in the calm and tranquility. He suddenly sighed and felt an inexplicable sense of loss. To him, the Jindan was the basis for rapid improvement in martial arts. It was the biggest and most unknown trump card and the secret that he was most unwilling to let others know. It made him appear unique and full of confidence. When his master knew about its existence, he understood that similar things left behind by cultivators were rare, but not only did they exist. He seemed to have lost that unique feeling and was no longer full of confidence, so it was inevitable that he felt lost. But from another perspective, the Jindan itself contained too many dangers and uncertainties. With his master, a physical invulnerability mighty one, watching over him, he would be much safer. What made him truly unique and confident was not the Jindan, but the tenacity, perseverance, temperament, confidence, and fighting talent that had been awakened by the Jindan. They were his biggest reliance on his martial arts path. After understanding this, Lu Qing returned to normal and felt relaxed. It was as if he had removed a burden that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. He had removed the worry that he would lose his life due to the instability of the Jindan at any time. He took a step forward, still calm and confident, and walked to the door of the locker room. Gizershur left the martial arts arena and walked towards the teacher's dormitory. Suddenly, he made a sound and patted his head. Look at my memory. I forgot to ask the brat what he got. Forget it. If it's not a natal weapon, then it's an external cultivation elixir. When Lu Qing entered the locker room, Yenjika had just come out of the shower. Her black hair was tied up with a black rubber band, looking fresh and attractive. Li Mao was walking back and forth excitedly, looking for someone to talk to. The sweat on his face had not disappeared. Obviously, he had not taken a shower yet. The others were busy with their own things. Seeing Lu Qing come in, Li Mao hurriedly shouted, Qing, and everyone, it's my treat tonight. Let's go to the school restaurant to celebrate. He wanted to express his gratitude and happiness. Yenjika took out the ointment from the cabinet and jokingly said, Senior brother Li Mao, are you ignoring me and senior brother Sun Jian? We are also the protagonists today. If you want to treat, all three of us should treat. Sun Jian also echoed, that's right. Li Mao, do you want to steal the credit? I'm the last fighter standing in the arena. I'm the leading fighter. How can I let you treat yourself? Lu Cheng and the others understood that they did not want Li Mao, who was from an ordinary family, to spend too much money, so they followed suit. Li Mao was moved and embarrassed, but finally he agreed. Let me help you rub the bruise. Lu Cheng walked to Yan Zhika and took the ointment with a smile. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and looked at him with a smile. She snorted and said, then I'll try your skills. After that, she turned around and sat on the edge of the bench. She unbuttoned her cuffs and rolled up her sleeves, revealing a part of her snow-white skin. Perhaps because of her delicate skin, the few bruises and red swollen bruises looked terrible. Lu Cheng picked up her wrist and applied the ointment on the red and swollen part of her fist. He rubbed it very carefully. Not bad. Yan Zhika bit her lower lip with her white teeth and looked at the whirlpool on top of Lu Cheng's head. She smiled shyly. Of course. I rub it for myself every day after training. My proficiency is already full. Lu Cheng answered humorously, feeling relaxed and happy. Yan Zhika saw Sun Jian, Lin Hua and the others leave one by one. Li Mao also entered the shower room to take a shower. She called in a low voice, Cheng, yes? Lu Cheng raised his head and looked at the girl. He saw that her eyes were as gentle as water. Thank you. Yan Zhika turned her head and looked to the side, whispering. She did not thank him now, but before. Lu Cheng smiled and said, do we still need to say thank you between us? This was the answer that Yan Zhika pretended to be innocent before. Now that he used it, it immediately made the girl laugh and pout coquettishly. Lu Cheng looked at her and felt that he was unique again. In this world, the only boy that Yan Zhika likes is me. Chapter 159. In the spacious changing room, a young girl wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges sat with her hands on both sides of her body. Her quiet expression of shyness and happiness, and the boy who was crouching in front of her with his back bent as he carefully applied ointment on her body. Together, they formed a picture of beauty and youth. Their silent gazes from time to time was the finishing touch. Unconsciously, Lu Cheng rubbed away all the bruises and swelling. He reluctantly pointed at the girl's left foot. I remember you fought with Feng Xiaoquan with your foot. You should have some bruises, right? Ah. Yan Zhika seemed to wake up from a dream. She quickly withdrew her foot and lowered her head shyly. No, I'll do it myself when I get back. She didn't wait for Lu Cheng's reply. She blinked and asked, do I look normal now? Lu Cheng glanced at her and smiled, much better than just now. While speaking, he gently put down the girl's right trouser leg carefully. Yan Zhika looked at him with a faint smile. She picked up her phone and looked at it again. Then let's go back. You've recovered, but I haven't. Lu Cheng didn't dare to stand up, so he just squatted and laughed. I've always had an illusion that you shouldn't be associated with things like drying quilts, washing clothes, and cleaning. Little fairies should stay away from the mundane world. Yan Zhika burst into laughter. Which girl lives in a vacuum? If I don't wash my clothes myself, should I wear them and throw them away? Do you want to help me wash them? That's fine too. Lu Cheng smiled and said seriously. Yan Zhika rolled her eyes and said, you're a rough man. Most of the time you just rub your clothes. I don't feel safe washing them for you. I'll teach you later. Speaking of this, she suddenly paused, feeling a little shy and sweet. Am I making a promise for a long, long time in the future? Feeling a little tipsy, she suddenly thought of a sentence she once read, young people always make empty promises. When they were young, they didn't understand the length of time, the ruthlessness of time, the difficulties of the world, and the fickleness of human feelings. They always thought that promises and vows like a lifetime could be easily fulfilled. Yan Zhika, who was not yet 19, suddenly felt a little sentimental. Sure. Lu Qing didn't notice the twists and turns in Yan Zhika's mind and agreed happily. He always felt that it was a wonderful thing to have Yan Zhika's company, even if it was just housework. Yan Zhika gazed deeply at him and pursed her lips. Then you better remember what you said today. I remember it in a notebook. Lu Qing laughed. He always believed that a good memory was better than a bad pen. Feeling that abnormality that had not completely disappeared, he quickly started a new topic. Cool, how about going to the Songqing Ocean Aquarium tomorrow afternoon? Then, he could go to the third place he had visited to enjoy the delicious food. The distance between the two places was less than 15 minutes. Sigh, now that we're officially dating, we don't have much time to explore new areas. Whenever we have free time, we want to stick together. You really can't be both loyal and filial. Sigh, that's a weird way to describe it. Yan Zhika blinked and said apologetically, I'm afraid I can't. I have to go to Tiantong Taoist Temple tomorrow afternoon. Huh? Lu Qing looked at her blankly. Why didn't she mention this before? I just heard it from my brother. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and said, after he was injured, he moved to Tiantong Taoist Temple to recuperate. The environment there is good and the air is fresh. The abbot is an old friend of my uncle in Songqing. It's a good place for him to recuperate. Well, an elder in my family knows that he's injured and is passing by. He plans to visit Tiantong Taoist Temple and wants me to go there too. The ocean aquarium can only wait until next week. Actually, I don't like this kind of gathering. It's always a little depressing to chat with unfamiliar elders. While talking, the girl felt wronged. She wanted to stay with Lu Qing. Lu Qing was disappointed when he heard that. But after seeing Yan Zhika's grievance, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and said with a smile, then I'll go to Tiantong Taoist Temple tomorrow afternoon. Ah. Yan Zhika didn't react for a while. Lu Qing laughed and said, let's go to Tiantong Taoist Temple on a date. Anyway, the scenery there was good. He heard that the food in the temple was good too. Who wants to go on a date with you? Yan Zhika said coquettishly. Then she asked, but I can't accompany you in Tiantong Taoist Temple. It's so boring to let you wander around there alone. Lu Qing answered with confidence, you can go in and chat with your elders and cousin for a while. Then you can find an excuse to come out. They can't stop you from going to the temple and climbing the mountain, right? You can go back at dinner time. I'll find a place to settle it myself. Yan Zhika was in the honeymoon period. How could she be willing to waste a rare weekend like this? Hearing that, she was quite moved. After thinking for a while, she said, okay. Anyway, there's a generation gap between my uncle and us young people. There's nothing to talk about. Then it's decided. Lu Qing clapped and smiled. Why did your cousin move to Tiantong Taoist Temple to rest? Doesn't he need to go to class? Yan Zhika sighed and smiled helplessly. He said that he can understand the curriculum content by self-study now. Until now, she realized that Lu Qing had been squatting. His posture was very awkward. She was puzzled and asked, why didn't you stand up? If I stood up just now, you would have called me a hooligan. Lu Qing rejoiced. He adjusted his pants and stood up slowly. I was too engrossed in the conversation and forgot about it. It shouldn't be obvious. Yan Zhika looked at him suspiciously. I always feel that you are hiding something from me. What were your hands doing just now? My pants were a bit crooked. I was adjusting it. Lu Qing lied through his teeth. He reached out his hand and said, go back. Otherwise, someone is always afraid that I'll become a big pervert. Yan Zhika was amused by his words. She gave Lu Qing her hand and let him pull her up. Then she said in a small voice, come, do, yes. After parting with Lu Qing, Yan Zhika carried the bag and walked back to the dormitory with light steps. When she opened the door, she saw Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru looking at her quietly. They looked like they were going to interrogate her. What are you guys doing? Yenjika asked in surprise. Li Lientong sneered. Ku, you're eating and forgot to wipe your mouth. Ah. Yenjika was shocked and quickly wiped her mouth. Didn't Ching say it was normal? I've also checked it myself. Li Lientong suddenly laughed and said to Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yenru, see? He tricked you out. Quick, call me daddy. What are you guys betting on? Yenjika was embarrassed and angry. I bet that you and Lu Qing must be in full swing. They didn't believe me and put their dignity on the line. If they lose, they will call me daddy. Li Lientong smiled proudly. Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yenru were both amused and angry. They first called daddy in grievance and then looked at Yenjika with a disappointing look. Ku, how can you let Qing get what he wants so easily? Yenjika's face was pink. She said stubbornly, I didn't admit it. I just touched my mouth casually. Li Lientong laughed. Even if I didn't trick you, I'm sure. Didn't we go to cheer you on? After the competition, we wanted to take a photo with you, Heroine Yen, so we went to the locker room and waited. We waited and waited. When everyone else had left, you and Lu Qing still hadn't come out. A man and a woman in a room together, and you are an official couple. As long as he is still a man, he will definitely have bad thoughts. If you don't cooperate, he will definitely come out soon. How is it possible that the locker room door didn't open again after 10 to 20 minutes? Yenjika was speechless. Her face was burning with embarrassment. She couldn't wait to crawl into bed and hide under the blanket and never talk to Dirty Tong again. See, you admitted it. Li Lientong spread her hands proudly. Zhong Yenru saw that Yenjika was so embarrassed that her heart softened. She quickly changed the topic. It's natural for me to kiss my boyfriend. What's there to say? Before she could finish her words, Yenjika slid close to her and covered her mouth with her hand. Her delicate face was as red as a big piece of red cloth. Compared to Dirty Tong, Ruru's name was more lethal. The girls laughed and joked for a while. Shi Xiangyang panted and said, okay. Didn't you want to take a photo with Heroine Yen? Seize the opportunity when she hasn't changed her clothes. I'll be the first. Li Lientong jumped to Yenjika's side, held her hand, and posed. At the same time, she said with emotion, Ku, you look so beautiful when you wear the martial arts suit. You make my heart beat so fast. I wonder if I should take you back from Lu Qing. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. First, you have to beat him, Li Lientong complained. Then I can only settle for the second best. Find a boyfriend who is good at martial arts. That will make me feel very safe. Not really. Many people who practice martial arts have bad personalities and bad tempers. They will make you feel even more insecure. Don't find a boyfriend for the sake of finding one. Yenjika thought for a while and said. Li Lientong was stunned. I'm just a love-struck fool. Ku, you don't have to be so serious, okay, 1, 2, 3. Shi Xiangyang raised her phone and shouted. Click. The beautiful scene froze on the screen. While they were taking photos, Lu Qing was strolling on the street toward his own dormitory. He was recalling the beautiful moment just now and sighing from the bottom of his heart. He thought that since his master knew about his Jindan, he might as well take the opportunity to confess to Yenjika. However, there were too many people in the locker room at the beginning. Besides, he was intoxicated by the kiss and completely forgot about it. He couldn't find a chance to tell her. When they parted, he wanted to pluck up his courage but felt that it was not the right time. I'd better tell Ku after I've digested the Jindan. Lu Qing thought. He vaguely understood that on one hand, this decision was to keep it a secret. On the other hand, he liked Yenjika so much that he was afraid that this was a dream that he would wake up from. He felt a little guilty and not confident enough. He always felt that he was not good enough for this girl. Therefore, he had to work hard to improve himself so that one day he could confidently and frankly tell her everything. Back in the dormitory, he sat in the living room, chatting with Yen Jika while looking at the pictures and corresponding introductions that he had downloaded earlier. Hey, Cheng, you're taking marine biology as an elective? Kai Zhongming passed by behind him and glanced at the content on his phone. Lu Qing smiled and said, No, I'm doing homework for next week's date. Humph. Kai Zhongming raised his middle finger to show his disdain. The next morning, Lu Qing was delighted to find that because of the awakening of the power of frost, his physical quality had improved in a short time. The injury on his right arm was healed one day earlier and he could do restorative training now. In other words, he could put into practice the Thunder Roar Zen technique that he had been practicing for the past few days. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.